Sorry about that. Hi. Welcome back to Effluvium. It is time to recenter masculinity and fragrance. I know that sounds controversial, right? We're going to be talking about masculine fragrances. We're going to be talking about the fragrances that were developed with the intention of complementing the gentleman. So we're going to be talking about fragrances from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, maybe even a couple from the early 2000s. My esteemed guest is Kelan, Scents of South Jersey. Many of you may know him from his channel. He has great taste in this category. I am humbled to have influenced him as well. We were just chatting a little bit, and he said he's read a few of my reviews and was inspired to pick up some things, and I extend that in return. He has turned me on to some great stuff over the years as well. So we're going to be bringing him in shortly, and we're going to have a great chat about fragrances for men. Now, women who are tuned in, of course, these fragrances are not just for men. They can complement anyone who chooses to wear them, just like vice versa. But tonight, it's going to be all about the ones that were marketed to men and designed specifically for the use of men. So we're talking about all different kinds of fougères and chypres and aromatics, spicy, woody, fern-like, herbs, lavender. It runs the gamut. Colognes, musks, you name it. We're going to take a look at the chat here. We're going to see who is in the chat. We have Philippe Alex, a regular viewer to Effluvium. Scent of the day is Amouage Epic Woman. I love the irony there. Awesome. Great scent, though. Ricardo Neves, Saturday Night Fever, in my bed watching the GOAT, the GOAT, the greatest of all time. I'm humbled by that. I'm charmed. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that, Ricardo. UK, great to have you here as well. Future so bright, you got to wear shades, right? 7 people who are tuned in. We're going to allow some people to jump on to the chat or tune into the live broadcast. And then we're going to bring in Kelan. Nathaniel Moody, greetings. Scent of the day is Kelan, Heritage, and sampling Arquise Misfit. Actually haven't sampled Misfit yet. You got to give me some feedback on that. Philippe, irony was not planned, but this is nicely timed. I thought it was brilliant. Alex, our good friend Alex, the Perfume Temple, a longtime supporter of the channel and of Effluvium. He was there from the very beginning of Effluvium on YouTube. He will be there at the very end of Effluvium on YouTube when we do our series finale. And his scent is Encre Noir, I presume? Encre Noir. Wonderful. All right, just one second here. We're going to bring in our guest. I made sure to mute that because nobody has to hear me clearing my throat or snorting. There's too much of that is being heard on other people's live streams. So I made sure to mute that and spare all of you. Great day for Encre Noir. Yeah, here in New England especially, and Nathaniel, as far as I know, is it snowing where you are? Very strange weather we're having because just south of Massachusetts and Connecticut, it hit almost 80 as far as I know. It's been really warm in New York and in New Jersey. Kelan can let us know what the weather has been like there. Okay, we have about 10 people tuned in at the moment. Without further ado, let's bring in our guest, Kelan, and welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's been a long time coming.
It has been a long time coming. I know we've been talking back and forth over, I don't know, like 2 or 3 years, but we finally made it happen. So that's great.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. I know that there were several times where we had talked about a plan, and I was either away or doing something, you know what I mean? And but I'm glad to finally get on here too. Like I mentioned, it's definitely been a wait, so I'm happy to do it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's great. We both have busy schedules, so we finally made it work out for both of us here. UK scent of the day, Dior Fahrenheit Absolute. Raining where Nathaniel is. I almost wore it myself, the Encre Noir. Very nice. What's weather like where you are, Kelan?
It's warm. It hit 81 at some point today. So I even consider turning the AC on, but it'll drop, and the weather fluctuates around this time.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it's still March,
Yeah, the weather is really mercurial at this time of year for the Northeast, and it's amazing how I can only be, what, I don't know, 400 miles away, and like it barely hit 50 degrees up here.
True.
And UK says hi to you. All right, well, let's get this conversation started by, I don't know, I'll ask you a few questions here. It's not like a formal interview, so don't worry about the pressure of asking questions, but just for those who may not be familiar with you, and I know many here are or will be when they watch the playback, but for those who aren't familiar, tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you so into fragrances, into the colognes. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I would say the channel really started in 2019. That is officially when it started at some point back then. But my interest, I've always had an interest in fragrance, always wore a fragrance, and I've always, at some points, maybe I had at most 4 or 5 going, at one time. And I know every year for Christmas, I think my mom would pick something out for me as I was growing up. And she was also one to get the matching body line stuff. And usually it went with an aftershave or an aftershave balm, because I have a thicker beard and I shave. And I went to Catholic high school too, so you had to be clean shaven. So that was something I used a lot. And, I think I really liked, I would just take whatever my dad had at the time for a long time. I would sneak some of that, and that, he always had, he's 77. So, he always had some classics, whether it was, at one point when I was very young, Polo for men. Then he had an Armani Pour Homme. I remember that one for a very long time. Dolce & Gabbana Pour Homme. And occasionally he would get something newer. But I always remember him saying he'd always preferred what he would wear all the time. So, I would say, fast forward around 2017, I remember, thinking to myself, God, I'm blowing through these bottles of Jean Paul Gaultier Le Male, because that's what I would wear. I would think in my mid to late 20s, I wore that all the time. And that was probably I would say a signature scent, buying the biggest bottle that they could have. And I always had all the body line products too. And on my personal Instagram, it's funny, way back in 2014, there's a picture. I was in Miami and I just took a picture of everything I had, all matching JPG Le Male. And it was like a preview of unknowingly of things to come about how my Instagram would be laid out. You know what I mean? Very, very totally stole some ideas and themes from that vintage parfumist, that guy, the way he has all the sets together. I always thought that was very cool. So, but that was a sense. And then I remember going through so many of them because I would wear it every single day for work. So I stopped because I'm like, oh, I'm spending so much money on the same one. So I started going to the rack stores, and that's where you'd see. I remember buying that. I don't know if I'm sure it's still around, English Laundry, right? That's a really clone brand. And I was thinking, okay, and they always had the gift sets too. That's how it started. And then you see different ones. And then I remember getting some on Amazon, buying my first Drakkar Noir set and loving that and being like, oh, this smells great. It was different. And they're $20-$30 and you can get a big bottle of it and it would last. And then I remember coming across Acqua di Parma, and I absolutely loved the Colonia line, and especially the original. In my opinion, that's the best one of that line. And I found out through their website that you could get everything under the sun in terms of a matching body line product too. So I went through tons of bottles of that. They even have drawer sheets that you can put in your drawer so your clothes, your undershirts or shirts, smell like the fragrance. So forget just the aftershave and splash and balm and deodorant spray and stuff. So and that was around 2018, I think. And and then I decided, and when I left the one job I had in the fitness industry because of the amount of hours you had to put in to do well, I really didn't have a lot of free time. And when I left that, I started the channel, and I just started to get into it, watching reviews, buying different things. And my taste have definitely changed over the years. And I think in the beginning you tend to like everything, and then
there's the refinement. You can kind of get an idea of what you really gravitate to. Yeah,
for sure. And especially with the classics and the powerhouses, a lot of those in the beginning, they tended to be really inexpensive. And, that gave me an avenue to try a bunch of different things. And I'm like, wow, these are different. They're unique. They don't remind me of, Acqua di Gio with them all. Not that I dislike that. I love that. But, it stood out. And I'm thinking well, to me, this is more fun to review and to talk about it. And I remember a friend of mine was like, "Yeah, you should do a YouTube thing," and he was a coworker, and so I just started doing it. And I channels I took inspiration from, definitely Mr. Smelly Dan and Fragrance Matt, because they would do the same type of thing. And his especially, because he would do something like a one-man show, and then I find out about these brands I had never heard of before, these houses, these lines, and you can get every one of them for under $100. And I'm like, oh, and I'm used to spending at that time, this is before I even knew about a niche, you know what I mean? This, you think, it's going to be $80 to $120, $30 per bottle each time. But, there's a lot that I found out that I enjoyed that is sub $50. So that's pretty much how it came to be. And, I just started doing a review, talking about like the way the bottle looked or because a lot of liking the ones, if I felt like if it had the built-in sprayer, then that must mean it was classic. And that's not necessarily true. And I know that now, but there was a lot, and a lot of them I got it. I'm thinking, they sort of smell the same, and I wasn't too crazy about them. Then I would go and revisit them, and I'm like, whoa, this is way better than I thought, So that definitely, it was a lot of fun, and it is fun in the beginning, for sure. And it still is too. And doing something like this, it'll get me to go ahead and make some more videos, because I have some on deck that I want to make, but I just haven't in the past 2 to 3 weeks. And I try not to go any longer than that, but it has happened, in the past.
Yeah. But life happens. It's tough. It's tough to keep up content. So and to keep, and sometimes to keep your audience waiting, if you can afford it, if you're not living off of it, it's kind of nice to build up the anticipation, and then they're excited to see a new video of yours. So in a way that can be kind of advantageous.
It could work in your favor. Yeah.
It could totally work in your favor. Yeah. I mean, with me, like, people have been waiting since I don't know, like October. Like, when are you going to make another video? I'm like, I promise I'm going to make another video after I end Effluvium on YouTube. I'm just going to redirect our attention very briefly to the chat, just to check in with some other people who have filed in. We have Miguel here. Hi from Madrid. Scent of the Day Hohan Club. That is a Balenciaga. Then we have, Salvador. Great to see you, friend of mine here. I'm wearing New York Intense, and the dry down is always amazing to me. Wonderful choice. AM, stop it. You're making me blush. Thank you very much to you, my friend. And Splinter 47 is here. Greeting you here and rocking Kuros today. Happy Saturday. And Furio and Force Majeure are my faves from Bogart. As a matter of fact, I actually have a Bogart over here sitting next to me. Might as well. I have this Bogart here. Do you know this one?
DeVeris. You know what, man? I had an aftershave. I bought an aftershave, and that was one of the guy that had to have been in 2020. I bought it, and it was an aftershave splash. Like, I thought the bottle was very cool. It has sort of like a Greco-Roman looking guy.
Right. Yeah, it totally has the
And the aftershave was 100% spoiled. And
that's tough about this one. I
sold it for I think a fraction of what I even said. Like, I can't guarantee the scent in it, and it was an aftershave splash to begin with. I used it once, and I'm like, ugh. It just had that off smell. You know what that's like? It's hard to describe. I always say vinegar a little bit, but it was not.
Because they call it in chemistry, they call it acetylation. So when you have these alcohols that acetylize, so they turn into acetates, and they're not acetates that are meant to be in perfume, it gets sort of like that vinegary kind of smell in the top notes. It totally turns the top notes. This is a tough one to get pristine, because there's a lot of, it's really
citrus.
All about the citrus to a degree, but it's also just about like these materials that are really vulnerable to heat and to the exposure of light. So it took me, I actually bought another bottle of this and then returned it. Thankfully, I could return it. That's the good thing about having PayPal and eBay's product. Like, I was like, I'm sorry, man. Like, I wanted to do business with you, but this is just completely turned. And I returned it. And then I got a small bottle for it was like a 30 mil that was a spray. That one turned. And then I found this one for a good deal. And I finally found a bottle that hadn't turned. And that's one of the hazards, as you are well aware of, buying vintages. It's a lot of freaking heartbreak and disappointment, because especially when you're dealing with aromatics with a lot of citrus and herbs and even some spices, they are more likely to turn. So you're taking a huge risk. And that's why I say, like, for people, you know, just make sure that you have buyer protection, because some people are not going to allow you to return it, and then you're stuck. And like, you know, in your case, you had to resell it, but at least you were honest about it, right? You're like,
Yeah,
yeah,
of
I can't
course.
guarantee this is going to smell good. And that's a good thing to say, because you also, you keep in mind that smell is subjective, because for all we know, they're probably like, well, this turns out to smell fantastic. But you make them aware that, you know, based on your experience, you know, it might not smell that great.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that
this one is this one in pro that isn't bruised and turned. It does smell great. It is sort of the unusual herbal green kind of aromatic that you were seeing like in the late 70s to the early 80s, and there's like mastic resin in it. It's very nice if you actually get a bottle that hasn't spoiled.
What's it like if you could compare it to something? Because like that one, like it's funny you say that, dude, because I completely forgot about that one. And I think I remember buying it for $90, and it was an after, and I'm like, oh, I'll just get some. Sometimes I used to do that. Like if I saw the other one was like, like, you know, the EDT or whatever. Is that one an EDT or is it an eau de cologne?
It is an EDT. It is
It's
an
an EDT. So
eau
let's
de
just say it was
toilette.
more than I wanted to spend at the time. I remember
Right.
getting the aftershave. And I even have a DeVeris soap bar too. I have it up for sale. I never used it. It's
Yeah.
still brand new. I just was again collecting those things. So, but like if you could compare it to one thing, what would you compare it to?
I would actually compare it, oddly enough, to Alliage from Estee Lauder. I am redirecting my attention right into the chat. There's some echo, FYI. So I'm just going to ask the chat to specify where the echo is coming from. Is it from me? Is it from Kelan? Is it from both of us? So that we can potentially work out that sound issue. But getting back to DeVeris or DeVery, would that be how you pronounce it in French? DeVery.
Maybe.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's a little bit of Alliage from Estee Lauder. And Estee Lauder Alliage was marketed to women. You would not be able to tell from smelling it. It was sort of the precursor to Devon, but not Devon. So certain elements of Devon, but not quite Devon. A little bit more floral, a little bit more aromatic. Maybe a little bit of eau de campagne from Sicily, Paris. Um,
hmm.
it's after I speak. Okay, let's see if we can work that out.
I don't hear it, but I can't
All right.
speak on behalf of everybody else.
So if anybody can let us know besides Philippe, if you hear any echo, if this is something that everybody hears, or if it's just Philippe. I do hear like a little weird sound kind of going on actually on my end. So it could actually, let's see. I'm going to try to adjust the levels a little bit. All right. Here. We'll work that out. Let me know if that's changed a little bit, or if anybody else is experiencing the issues. We have 14 people who are tuned in, and if any of you 14 people, Nathaniel does say that there is no echo. I guess it's coming from the headphones, but no echo from Nathaniel. So yeah, hopefully that is not going to be an ongoing issue. So back to the discussion. I'm going to ask you, Kellen, right now, what is the fragrance that is in your possession? It could be a recent acquisition, the one that is you are most, I don't know, into, excited about, like that you're really feeling right now. Is there one that you can share with us?
Yeah, there's several. I brought a bunch of ones over here. Some of the ones will be featured in a new video. But I wanted to say one quick thing though. Like when you were talking about the spoiled vintages, even if it's sealed, sometimes it'll still be spoiled.
Oh,
Um,
totally. Yeah,
for
I've
sure.
noticed sometimes like I feel like it's here's and not to interrupt you, but if you notice this, Kellen, like sometimes it like it's actually more risky to get an atomizer than to get a splash. Like I feel like sometimes atomizers actually are more likely to turn. Like you're more likely to see like darker liquid than with a
Uh,
splash. As long as
I,
the splash is full. I'm not talking about partial.
yeah, true.
Because
I guess if it's
partial you have the
full,
oxygen and that will change it. But
I always felt that splash was more risky, but you probably know better than I do. I just know that I've got it's just it's a crapshoot a lot of the times. You know what I mean? You don't know what's going to turn up on when you when you roll the dice. So like it's I had a one of the fragrances I have here that I want to talk about that I read your review on, and I bought an aftershave spray, and they only make spray aftershave. They never made a splash, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome, and it was sealed. And aftershave spray is great because you don't have to dump it in your hand. It's a lot cleaner. You sprayed it, and then you put it on. And I looked at it and it was as cloudy as could be. And I saw stuff floating around. And I put one spray on. I'm like, oh, this, and I can't return it at this point. I didn't use it for a while, you know, and it was sealed. I thought it was good. I just kind of put it on the shelf until I was ready to use it. And it came from Europe too. So there's no getting around that one. That's the risk you can take. But to answer your question, one of the ones I'm most excited about that I got, and it's a vintage and it's in perfect condition, is this.
Let's zoom in on that one. I think I just saw a story where you shared this on Instagram.
I did, yeah. I first I was, because I have the 2016 relaunch, and I got a bottle that was the first release of the relaunch, and that was a little funkier than, say, the one that I had. And then I got this, and at first I was sort of like, oh, it's almost a little smoother. I was expecting it to be more rough, but the more I wear it, it has grown on me a lot, and it is very strong. And Jewel or whatever, however you say it, by Christian Dior. And the bottle's kind of goofy. It almost reminds me of like a potato.
It is kind of like a little plump, like a potato. It's kind of vaguely similar in shape to Leonard Porom too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
but
see,
thicker
that one,
though, not Leonard Porom. If you like touch it, it will fall. Like, but that one has a little bit more heft to it.
yeah. I actually think I like the other bottle better, but this one has the classic 80s built-in sprayer, and it smells fantastic. It's a little bit of wear coming on that stripe around there, but otherwise it's pristine. The bottle's pristine. The boxes, there's no tears on it. I got this one from Anuj, actually. I reached out to him and asked if he had it, and he tracked one down, and so I got it over here too. So if you love jewels, then I think it's definitely worth it. If you think it's okay, then the current one I would say is sufficient, because this one is not an inexpensive one at all, for sure, because it's very, very rare in this form. And I remember I almost bought one on eBay, and I had to look, because I'm like, oh, 184. I'm like, that's not bad at all. But it was a deodorant spray. It was not
Are you kidding me?
It was but an atomizer deodorant spray. It wasn't the eau de toilette.
Yeah.
Sometimes I was thinking, well, maybe that'll be as strong as the new one is today, but probably not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting thing, that you have like the mild deodorant spray. Like I have one for sale for Davidoff Good Life, and it smells great. It's just it's like a fresher, lighter version. It smells great, but for something like this, if you want it, you want the real thing. You want the Good Life's totally different scent than this.
Totally different. You're talking about like a 90s green vanilla aromatic kind of. I only have like a little mini version of that. I was like, I'm not spending that kind of money to get a full bottle. It's nice enough. Actually, there is one that I have here that sort of fills that need. It predates it from I think at least like 2 or 3 years, but Yopes What About Adam? Like this is the one that has like this tomato leaf. It's a very unusually green for like a 90s scent, and even the juice is green as well. This is between this and Yop, the original Yop, not the Yop Homme, but the Yop Femme. Between that one and this one, these are my favorites from the house. They actually had some pretty good ones, but this is like it has like a tomato leaf, green herbal, but then it dries down to kind of like this, and it's not like an excessively sweet vanilla, but it's like kind of like a vanilla that's a little bit woodier, but it's really beautiful stuff. But I think this one is going up in price week by week, month by month, year by year.
It's called What About Adam? Yeah, I think the only Yop I've ever tried is the original Yop Homme. That's it. That's the one I had. You can get that anywhere. In fact, I just sold in a group, it was like a bundle of random fragrances. So like I did not, end up finishing that. I had a splash, and I think I had a spray. That stuff was strong though. I'll tell you what, talk about a performer. That stuff performs. Doesn't matter what era you get it, whether it's current or vintage, that stuff performs a lot.
Yeah, it's a really unusual sort of men's scent. It marked a shift in what a man's scent could be. It's kind of for all of the punchlines that come from people about Yop Homme, it really did. It was sort of like a benchmark, just like Fahrenheit, because it just came out of nowhere. Like, what is this? But it was so wildly popular in the 90s. And I never really was that great of a fan of it. I thought it was like a little bit over the top, even for me, and you know me, I mean, I like all different kinds of fragrances.
You
Like
do, yeah, for
I
sure.
can get into over the top like fragrances marketed a woman in the 80s. Like it's like I can get into those powerhouse, you know, but that one is just like there's just something about it that just it wears out its welcome way too quickly. So I actually prefer, it's funny because the Jupe Femme, the original one for women, actually smells more like a men's scent than that one. Which, you know, go figure, you find a lot of that back in the day. um, let's get back to the chat though, because we have a pretty active chat. I'm pretty happy about it. We have Bilbo Fraggins here. Howdy, gents. Fragrance enthusiast. Hello, how do you do to Perfume Temple? And I'm assuming to us as well. Deveris or Devery is one of my favorite scents. And I think you actually inspired me to really pick it up. And it was a trial and error, but I finally found a good bottle of it. So I thank you for the recommendation. It does have that unique bitterness. And I love bitterness in fragrance. I would always take bitterness over sweet in fragrance. Splinter 47, I had my fair share of turned fragrances or broken. Oh man, don't even get me started with that. Especially when you buy something and it's like really kind of rare and you find out that you can't spray it and you have to try to like, you know, I've had to try to open up bottles just so that I can get the juice out. It's really a pain in the ass. AM, does anyone really want to smell like New Jersey? Oh, that's a smart quip. We'll just get past. I don't think I want to smell like New Jersey, but each their. Oh, now. There's many parts of New Jersey. Come on, be nice. UK, can you tell a few words about Ted Lapidus Porum 1978? What sense smells similar? Listen to me. I can't. That is a tongue twister, folks. What scents smell similar with it or to it? I would imagine. Are you familiar with that one, Ted Lapidus, the 1978 version?
The orange and red bottle, yeah, that one. You know what? No, I've never tried that. And for a second, I'm thinking, oh, Lapidus Porum, we're going to go talk about that one again. But no, you're talking about that. No, I have not. I've only seen photos of it. And well, tell me about that one. What's that one like?
Do you love how I was just able to like just pull this out from this like as if like I knew he's going to ask that question?
It just so happens to be in arm's reach at all times.
Right. It's like, oh, this just a coincidence. So UK, it is your lucky evening or whatever time it is where you are. But Ted Lapidus is the original men's fragrance. It was off the heels of VU, which was their premier fragrance for women. It was released, I think, a year later. And this is for those who like those 70s kind of leathers. So this one is really heavy in castoreum and styrax from my nose. They don't necessarily show up as notes because remember, the notes are only telling you so much, or they may be telling you too much. So, but for me, this is a very much a castoreum, styrax driven leather with patchouli. It's aldehydic and aromatic in the top. Mossy, of course, very musky. Those nitro musks when they could still be used before they were completely banned in the 80s. Nitro musks. Yeah, some of the nitro musks actually were discovered through we're going to talk chemistry just a little bit, but I'm not going to nerd out too much, but not too far removed from like explosives. That's so the nitro, a lot of the nitro musks actually I'm trying to think, I'm kind of putting myself in the spot here, but musk ketone, musk ambrette, musk xylene, and some of them were discovered through, I guess, imperfections in TNT. I don't know. It's some pretty wild stuff that was happening in the mid 20th century, if you can imagine. But it resulted in these nitro musks being used in the decades that followed. And a lot of them in here, because this was released about maybe like 5 or 6 years before they really were heavily restricted or banned. So this is like some legit shit here. Really great stuff. As far as UK's question about what would be similar to Ted Lapidus, the original Ted Lapidus Porum, I would say, I mean, there's a little, it's kind of hard because it's such a unique scent. I almost wanted to say like a little bit like as if it was like Portos by Balenciaga with the more of the leather. There's actually this really obscure fragrance called Opinion by Hanara, which is this really neat bottle that smells kind of similar to this too. But that's it. I can't really think of too many others. It's really unique. And that's saying a lot because Kelan, as you know, like, I mean, there were men's fragrances that were like by, dozens that smelled just like Paco Rabanne. And, like, but this one was pretty unique. So hopefully that answers your question. UK. All right, back to you, Kellen. What else do you have to share with us and to talk about? Because I'm going to zip my mouth. I'm going to let you do some talking on something that has been,
Sure.
exciting and enjoyable for you to wear lately.
We were talking about a Bogart, and I've talked about this one a lot, but how so that sort of came up in the beginning, the very beginning too. And I'm sure you've had this one, or maybe you don't. I don't know. This is one that I found. And it used to be, it's now gotten up to maybe about $100 a bottle, maybe more. But have you ever tried this one, Eau Fresh? Have you ever had that? It's a 90s, I think in 1992. Really nice green. I think you're muted. I'm sorry. I can't hear what you're saying.
It wouldn't be, obviously I have a habit of doing that. No, I am familiar with that one. Yeah, I like that one a lot. I sold it only because like I had my collection. It was just overblown. It's
Right.
Great though. I only sold it because like I had a couple of other things that were similar to it. However, I do like it, and I did write a pretty good review for it. So
this was one I got from I found out about it from Fragrance Matt's video like 8 or 9 years ago, or whenever he posted it. And then you could find the 50 mLs for pretty cheap at one point. I think they were like 23, they say between $20 and $30. And then I killed both of those. I went through them and then I had 100 ml. And I bought another one. So I only have this one and another one. But this is one of the ones I like. See, like, for example, I got Furio, and that one is very strong. It's a huge powerhouse.
Yeah.
I liked it. And then the more I had it on over days, I was just like, it's almost too floral, too overbearing. And I didn't enjoy it. So that's one of the ones, a Bogart, a rarer Bogart, but that I sold off. And then like all of a sudden it sort of that came back into circulation a little bit. Like it became more available on sites briefly. And if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, it might be gone again. But this one I loved from the second I tried it. And it's like a mix between that transition of 80s and then what they tried to make, in earlier 90s to somewhat of a fresher scent. But it's fresher, but it's also musky, also green, very, very green, but it is fresh, but also still going to have a little bit like 1 foot in the 80s at the same time, I always say. So it's sort of like.
Totally, yeah. That hangover in the early 90s that you still have some of those elements that were popular in the 80s. Yeah, it's a really good one. Yeah, really the only reason why I sold it is because my collection was too big and I was finding it so difficult to like pare it down. But
yeah,
in theory,
and like when you get to a point where like you're looking at something and you're like, hey, I haven't even picked this up in X amount of time, right? Is the world gonna end if I sell it? And the answer is always no. So like, for example, like how we recently connected again was about those Casanova fragrances, right? Like I bought those too. I thought those looked really cool. And I couldn't, and you had them for a good deal. And like, see, now those are ones that like, after I did the reviews, I did a review on them. I like the original, the Pour Homme, I think better. But I don't know if I'll wear that often enough because it's different. It's believe it or not, man, that was very light. I thought that thing was going to be like nuclear, but it was actually pretty tame for the scent, unless, I don't know if you feel differently about it. I thought that the 2 Casanova was way stronger. That one was like insane.
Yeah, that one actually is stronger. I think, sometimes it's, YMMV, your mileage may vary. That one, I didn't really have any gripes about how long it lasted. I just was like, you know what? I have curated so many incense fragrances. And while it was interesting to me that you had something that smelled kind of like an incense fragrance being released in the 80s, when that like incense would just be sort of like an accord in the base of a fragrance, I just felt like, I already have enough that it's all about like whether or not it's going to resonate with me long term. And I already have like a museum of fragrance. Like I forget about like wearing something, not often enough or too often, but it has to just like speak to me in a way where I feel like it has like a little carved out space in my collection. And that one, neither of them really did. but I wanted somebody else who could appreciate them to get them. And I'm glad that you got them and you appreciated them. But then it's just sort of like passing. And we are all doing this all the time. Like we buy things for people and then we sell them, and then somebody else enjoys them, and then they
right. Exactly. And those are ones that I have up on my page because like I was like like two Casanova. I have several things that smell like that. It's a one man show. It's things that I and someone else could enjoy. I mean that one though, that one had better performance. The other one though, it just seemed like a very light burnt embers. Like I read that in your review, and I'm like, that's exactly what it smells like. Exactly, it smells like the charred tips of woods after. And I'm thinking, this is cool. Fiance absolutely hated it. You know what I mean? Said I smelled terrible. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll take that with a grain of salt because again, a lot of these things are going to be different from what someone who's not like into this would appreciate, right? So it's but that one is like I always want to have stuff that if I pick it up, I'm gonna be like, oh, this is awesome, and I'm gonna wear it all week or all So like that one, I don't know if that'll happen again. I still have it though, but but you're right. I think it's coming up more often than not that people in the community, especially the vintage, will buy and sell stuff to each other.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. It's happened so many times, and it's funny, like I'll see things that I've given away or sold to somebody else, and then they'll go on eBay, and I'm like, I recognize those bottles. I've actually done giveaways on, well, not giveaways, but like I have like the 4-bottle grab bag that I do. If you buy me a coffee, if you do I guess I'll do a plug on it. Buy me a coffee, you get 12 cups, gets you a 4-bottle grab bag plus a sample pack. 6 cups gets you just a sample pack, but it's a great sample pack, US only. The link is pinned in the chat. But I've done those, and then like, I mean, and it's all good. It's like, but one time I did it, and then like I saw all of them for sale when I was looking for something on eBay. So hey, if it's gonna make somebody a profit, hey, all the better, because just for me, like, a lot of fragrance collectors and users, much like yourself, are like more practical about it. Like, I curate like a museum of fragrance. So like for me, the practicality is out of the window. It's kind of like I have like this vision to have like a little mini Osmotech or something. So like I know that a lot of the stuff I'm probably not going to be wearing more than once, like for X amount of time in my lifetime. So it's like I have to look at it a little bit differently. If I'm going to have like a museum level collection, then I want it to be at least tightly curated. So it's kind of like I do like this purging, it's like, why let this sit here and be part of a collection when that's already oversized, when I know somebody out there is probably going to appreciate it more than I do and will actually wear it more than I do. So that's why I do this, and that's why I do occasional sales. It's important because you don't want to get it to like ultra hoarding level, right?
Right. No, of course not. Yeah, of course not. Yeah, I like to wear the stuff.
Yeah, and that's why it's like I just circle back to the classics that are near and dear to me. It's like, with all this stuff, like I just want to wear something that really, it's sort of like, it's like that dopamine release. It's like I love this so much when I wear it, and obviously like 1,000 fragrances are not all going to make you feel the same way, right? Perfume Temple, that stuff. I think you were talking about Alex. You were talking about Jules when. Kelan was sharing that. Splinter 47. Has Kelan tried any Serge Lutens? My recent favorite ones I've been wearing have been La Couche du Diable, Labdanum Heavy. Have you really explored much in the way of Serge Lutens?
Never tried any. I never tried. I remember when, for like a brief moment on a couple different channels, people were saying they were available at like a Marshall's or something like that. Yeah. Never saw any there, and I never tried any at the time. And I think when they were even there, I probably wouldn't have bought it anyway, just because I was unfamiliar with it. But now I would be, of course, open to trying it. But I never have. No.
Right. No, that's totally cool. Splinter 47, though, I am a huge Serge Lutens fan, and I have a good percentage of my entire collection is just Serge Lutens, and I do agree. La Couche du Diable is very labdanum heavy. As a matter of fact, there is a particular fractionated distillation of labdanum called hydrocarboresin. And hydrocarboresin is produced by this firm called Bilan, and it is this derivative of cis labdanum. It's very smoky, as you can tell, incensey, like burning wood. I almost would think that like that Casanova would have some of it in it, but they didn't even produce hydrocarbon resin back then. But there is a lot of it in La Couche du Diable. For those who are incense fans, the highly coveted and ultra rare Norma Kamali, the incense from the 80s is pretty much like 95% just hydrocarbon resin. Nope, I don't encourage anybody to spend like $1,500 on a bottle of Norma Kamali incense, because you could just as well take the actual hydrocarbon resin and just dilute it in alcohol to like 20%, and it smells exactly the same. But La Couche de Diable is a little bit more dynamic than that. There's some other things going on, so it's not quite the same. I do really enjoy that one. And Wardo Church fan, welcome. I love Musk's Kubla Khan from Serge. Haven't got a full bottle yet. I think they are still selling it in the La Cloche, the bell jar bottle. And fan, I'm out on the hunt for a vintage Fianagi at a reasonable price. Fianagi, beautiful, beautiful fruits and pine needles. Very, very. It's sort of like like it reminds me of November and December leading up to the holidays. One of my favorites, actually, from Serge Lutens. Very nice. Okay, what do you have to share with us next, my friend?
All right, so this is one of the ones that I bought, and the review. It's funny. The EDT is not on for granted. They only talk about the concentrate version, which is impossible to find. But I read your review, and it was about the EDT, and it's Mars or Marte by Battistoni. And I love. As soon as I got this one, I love that you can take a look at the box. Really cool box, and a seller on eBay had a bottle of it, and really the bottle itself is beautiful, like this raised frosted, centurion Roman soldier helmet, and they got this here, and really old school sprayer. I think it smells like Armani Au Pour Homme, but just way soapier than Armani. Armani Au Pour Homme is a little bit darker, a little spicier.
Yeah, more aldehydes in that one. Yeah, don't you love those exposed crimpers? like it's like they're not even going to try to hide that crimper. They're just going to leave.
I don't know if you've seen what the new version looks like?
No.
So here's what that one looks like. I'll get a little closer. So it's no longer involved with Battistoni. Battistoni's out, but they still kept the name Marte, or which is Mars, the Roman god Mars. So if you look at this one compared to the original,
look at that. That's
you see that? Really cheap.
That's depressing. They didn't even want to do the relief.
No, and then you got this here too. It doesn't smell that far off. It doesn't smell as good. Like they glassed this up, but
they hid the crimper because that's a sign of something being old and passé apparently. But they exchanged that for not having that beautiful it's in relief on the other one. If you could tell, it's actually
raised up, right?
Raised up.
And this one, it's like it doesn't even. This is like a mix between like a Spartan, like Corinthian, like helmet from the Greeks, and the Roman plume on the helmet too. So it actually, I'm glad I bought this because this is an aftershave spray. I got an EDT as well of the new one, and it smells good. It smells like, for what it is, it smells good. And in Italy or in Europe in general, this is probably like a very inexpensive. But to get this one, this is less than 100. I think I paid like $80 for it. It's all, but I've used a decent amount of it too. Like I love this one, and it reminded me a lot of Armani Au Pour Homme, which I love, and I have here as well too. But this one is just soapier, and so that way I'm so happy that it's different, because even if there's something similar, but there's some sort of path that it goes down that separates it from something else, then it's like its own thing. You know what I mean? It's not a direct clone or anything, but very Italian, and there's a lot of attention to detail with the name and the name itself, Battistoni. So they have a couple different fragrances. They have a Classico, which I have, the original Classico. Then there's that's like a black and red box, and then there's one called Marte Red Planet, which I also have, and that's more of a like. It's like an Italian version, drugstore version of Abercrombie and Fitch Fierce. Smells great. I like it a lot, actually. But this one is the best for sure. It smells amazing. I think this smells great. Like if you'd like a citrus aromatic, like a classic fragrance, nothing out of this world, complicated, but Still masculine, still classic, soapy, definitely like a barbershop scent. I love this one a lot. It's really cool. And it comes in a big bottle. I back this one up because I know I'll go through that in the summertime and, in the springtime as well. And anytime, great daily scent for work, anything, any place. And so I'm glad I got this though, because the aftershave that I got in that version, that thing is, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Probably just throw it away.
Quintessentially Italian though. I love that invigorating feel of the herbs and the citrus with those aldehydes. They give that kind of like soapy, clean feeling. It's just, you can't get much better than that, It's wonderful stuff. I know, Salvador, we've bonded over that. Love the Serge Lutens. Essential notes, great to see you here. And Alex says the latest Serge Lutens discovery is De Profundis, which is beautiful. God. A lot of people don't realize that chrysanthemums actually do have a scent. It's just you smell it kind of like when they're all together. It kind of like you get that air of chrysanthemums. And that's definitely like a beautiful chrysanthemum based fragrance. And you have like the violet ionones, the green. It's all, it's like more like a poetic kind of fragrance. Dahlia, great to have you here. Thank you for joining. I love the little bunny in your avatar. Great to see you. The profundis is transcendent. I almost had difficulty spitting that word out. Transcendent. At Alex, I actually blindly bought it based off of, oh, wow, I'm humbled and cherish it so much. I'm so glad you enjoy it, Salvador. Dahlia knows what Jersey smells like. Oh, Dahlia's based in Jersey as well. And it's hard to pick a favorite. They cover such a wide range. And UK says, JJ, Kelan, what is your most overpriced and overrated blind buy scent? Oh God, I don't even know where to begin with that because there have been multiple ones where I regretted it. But Kelan, because you're our guest, I'm going to pass it over to you. Can you think of something where it's like, man, this was just such a bad decision. I really wish I hadn't done this.
Wow, that's a great question. And
yeah, right.
You know what? Some things I've got and I've come around to. Some things I've like tried to like trick myself into thinking I liked and I hated it. Like if I could give you a couple examples, and I actually have one here that I'm just disappointed in it. It smells good, right? I like it, but it overall, I guess its functionality. I'll explain about why. Like the bottle itself is, and it's not the first one I bought. I bought two different ones back to back, same problem each one. So I guess that's more of a surface level thing in terms of the scent. Like the question is like when I got it and I think, oh, this is nothing special.
Yeah.
I know Van Cleef and Arpels Pour Homme. I absolutely hated that scent.
I love that one too.
I thought that one smelled like a dusty old waiting room with like a grandmother that just dumped a bunch of powder on her wig, and it was just so. Like
that's exactly why I love it.
Dead rose. It was a dead rose, like walking into that. That one was. I think that one was. It's horrific. It's.
I love it for that, but I totally understand your taste. Like that would not be like I would predict that would be something you would not be into. So it's not.
So and like the review on that, I think I saw Lex Ellis, right? He's a fragrance reviewer, right? I'm getting the name right.
I think so. It
right,
sounds
like
familiar to
he's
me.
Either from Scotland or England or something. Yeah. And he was like, oh, this is so, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is going to be, and I remember buying it and I got 2 bottles of it. And one of them, I should have sold it because it does go for a nice amount, but this was back in like 2019 or 2020. I think it was 2020 when I did a giveaway. And the guy that got it, he said he also gave it away to his dad. And I remember I had a 50 ml that I gave to my dad. Hey, like everybody seemed to not like that one that I came in contact with. That one was really not that good at all. Whereas like Czar, which I have here, one of my all-time favorite, absolutely love this scent. And the funny thing is that I love finding out that like these used to be like $30. You know?
They were so cheap at one time.
And like that's
hilarious
insane.
About it. Yeah.
That's insane. And apparently at the actual boutique in France, these
Czar get them. Yeah.
Czar is back in like a black bottle and everything. And when I was waiting to be let in, like if you see the outline of your order, it looks exactly like the Czar bottle. Like I
actually had Czar in mind. I was like, you know what? Because I already kind of knew. Let me get myself back onto the screen here. I kind of knew this is one of your favorites. I just remembered that. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this kind of reminds me of that. So why don't I put it as a backdrop? Yeah.
I'm trying to think, what else did I absolutely hate that I thought was like going to be great. You know, I don't know. See, I'm quick to get rid of it. If I feel like I don't like it, I'll just put it up right away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least in the past year or so, I've done that. Now, I'll talk about another one. And I read your review. And this is Ricci Club by Nina Ricci.
Oh, okay.
Like, I think the scent smells great, right? It's not that strong, and it doesn't last that long, at least on me. Like, randomly I'll get whiffs of it. And the bottle, you think this would be right up my alley. Look, built-in sprayer, it's cool,
Yeah,
it's an Italian scent. You spray it on, a little puff comes out, and then your hand is soaking wet. And I bought a bottle for less money than this one, and I returned it. And I said to the lady, like, look, like, I'm like, same thing. I'm sorry, the bottle leaks. Like, it gets all over my hands when I spray, and I'm basically going like that. Yeah. And I get this one in, same exact problem. You know what I mean? I'm almost thinking I might have to like take the cap off, because you can take it off if I don't want to damage it.
Yeah, you could pry it off.
You just think it pops right off. You could put it right back on, and then Dremel it out of there or something like that. Like pry open it up, and it smells good. It's like a citrus, almost citrus with like almost like a hint of vanilla in the background or something like that.
Yeah.
And it smells good. It reminds me of something else that I had a long time ago that I hate when that happens and you can't think of it. But even just touching the bottle, like my hand smells like it because it's coated all over, and it just, you spray 2, 3, 4 times, the entire bottle leaks. And I don't know why. I guess is it like hitting the inside of that, or it's not,
I think, it seems like maybe a lot of the bottles were just defective as far as the spraying mechanism. I mean, the bottle I have does not have that problem, but that's not to say that there was a whole bunch of them produced, because you obviously had 2 in your possession that you experienced that same issue. And it wouldn't be the first time, and it wouldn't be the last, because there's some fragrances where every single bottle produced, there's an issue with the spray. So that could be, very well the problem. Like I found it for a song. I found it for like $25 in Mercari, and I figured out, why don't I just go
wow.
for
See,
it?
that's a great deal. Yeah, this was significantly more than that. And
it goes for like 200 something bucks in some places, and I was thank you.
And the first one, and I remember your review online. It was like, don't pay more than $100 for it.
No. Like, I like to warn people not to spend too much money on some things, because it's like, I don't know where this hype comes from with some of these fragrances. I mean, I think that some people who are like YouTubers, they'll hype things up and they'll say like, oh, this is the most amazing fragrance to come on. And I think what ends up happening is like, it becomes sort of, it ends up building hype, and then the sellers catch on to that as well, and they jack up the price. So and for some of them, it's like they're not even that great. It's like,
what?
Even like, I'm sorry, you were trying to get a word in edgeways, and I'm like, oh,
it's okay.
Like even like Patu Pour like there are so many fragrances that are similar to that you would never have to spend that kind of money on. It's like, and I love Jean Patou. Like I mean, I'm a huge fan of like, the Jean Patou, the older Jean Patou especially. But that one is just, I don't understand why it just got stratospheric. Like, who was it? Who are the people who hyped that up so much that now it's going for like $1,000 for a 100 ml? Like, that's.
Do you have it?
I only got like a sample of it to see what the big deal was, and I'm like, oh, well, I already have some other fragrances that are relatively rare as well, but never go for that kind of astronomical price, like things like Marc Cross or Eben de Balmain. There's a few of them from that time period, like Le Monsieur, that was sort of the trend in these very refined, gentlemanly fragrances. It was sort of like a response to what was happening in the late 70s and the early 80s. And I was like, well, this isn't really that unique. So it's interesting. It's fascinating to me how something just becomes so viral in a way and becomes like a hype machine. And then people think it's like one of the greatest scents of all time. And it's like, it's fine, but it's not that unique. It's
right.
Really
like that one I think has got so expensive that I know it's not as good as what they're asking for.
There's totally not.
There's no way. And if someone has, hey, do you want to go in halves with me on a bottle? They're like, and this guy's into fragrances, a friend of mine, doesn't live far. He's bought stuff from me. He sent me things just to review certain things, and I'll always give a shout out like, hey, this is not my bottle, but he sent it to me to try. Like, I've got a first edition Drakkar Noir in my possession to do a video on, and with the patchouli in it and everything like that, like from him, you know. So and he's like, I'll just decant it. You can keep the bottle for the review and the presentation and all that. And I've even said on that one, I'm like, I don't even think it's worth it even splitting it, because I know it's not going to be that good. And people have said that they, you know, Giorgio Red, it smells like that, which I thought was one of the worst cheap fragrances I've ever bought. Thankfully, it's, you know, I couldn't give that stuff away. I think I sold it for like $9. But I remember when Mr. Smelly got one, and he got an aftershave spray. Yeah. And he had a live about it. This is when he was doing the live streams, and he sprayed it on himself, and he was like, "Oh, it's got that old vintage fragrance smell." And to me, that meant it was sour. Like, that's what I thought. That
old vintage fragrance smell. Yeah, that means
that's like a way of saying it's out, it's spoiled without it. I mean, I could be wrong. And
a little dusty, a little sour, a little kind of like something feels flat. It's kind of like when it's kind of like all the effervescence is gone. Yeah. That's the thing about, like, you know, if something's got it skyrocketed in price like that, I'm not gonna, you know, I've never spent more. And sometimes this surprises people because they know how much of a voracious collector I am, but I've never spent more than $350 on a single fragrance. Like, I mean, the total value of my collection could say otherwise as far as like my spending habits, but for an individual fragrance, like, I think it's egregious to go beyond that. It's like nothing's worth that much. Like, for new fragrances, like niche or luxury fragrances, that's just the fragrance becoming like a Veblen good, where like the cost for production and the cost for whatever is surrounding it, like the bottle, the presentation, the, you know, the concentrated juice inside of it, is nowhere near that cost at that point. And I don't really find any valid reason for spending that much money on a single fragrance. And if you're like a real vintage nut, like, I'm not talking about vintage like what we're talking about. I'm talking about like vintages from like the early 20th century to mid 20th century. That's like a whole other ball game altogether. And like, you have to come into it with a realization that you're collecting the vintage object, and you're not really concerned as much with the quality of the juice inside.
It's got to be dead. Yeah, that's right. I would imagine it's so far gone. But it's like, funny when you're talking about the hype. Like, there's the guy that a friend of mine showed this to me, and he sort of blamed me in particular for hyping up, which I 100% did because I love it. Caesar's Man, legendary cologne, like, you know. And just was saying how inexpensive it used to be, and then someone you know, found out there's the difference between the made in China version, which you can get, you know, I don't see it in stores anymore, but you can definitely get it online. Like,
I'm sure those are some great essential oils in that version.
Yeah, right. And that's like a really cheap Drakkar Noir knockoff, where the other one is in that vein, but it's significantly better. And I love that scent, you know, and that lasts long. And if it has the legendary on it, you know, you're in good shape. And that's one that, even if the color changes a little bit, like, I've gotten them that are a little bit more golden versus green, and they still smell fantastic. So, you know, that one is one I definitely was excited about. And then, you know, he said that he said after that, like months after that, he noticed the prices went significantly higher, and he blamed me in particular for that one, which I find funny. You know, I hope I can do that.
Nobody should do that shit. It's all on the person who decides. I've had people do that to me too, where it's like, you know, what you wrote about this, like, it's nothing like that. And it's like, are you really, you know, that limited in your cognitive capacity that you can't realize that this is all subjective? Like, I'm just speaking from personal experience, dude. Like, if you don't like it, you don't like it. I didn't put a gun to your head and tell you you have to buy it. Like, and that's why I never like say like, this is the most, like, this is essential. Every person needs to have it. This is amazing. Because like, I know how subjective fragrance is. Like, I'm just one person, you know, like, it's inevitable that it's going to happen that you're going to like take somebody's recommendation and it doesn't work out for you. But you know what? It's ultimately our responsibility. Is like, you can't peg it on the person that wrote a review about it. But it's funny how people will do that, for sure. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's all right. Like and I'm trying. I don't know if I've done that. I've definitely hiked. Like I know I've hiked up things like stuff that I love, like a Koros or something like that. But that's still available and not overpriced. You can get the current version. If you're going to go for a deep vintage like 90s, 80s, or 90s, yeah, that'll cost a little bit more. And as time has gone on, I'm almost more inclined to wear the current version because it's almost like more wearable, than the 90s one where like 2 or 3 sprays and you can fill an auditorium with that stuff,
And and it's still no slouch. It's like they're still using animalis base in it. Like it still smells really animalic. It still has that. It has the whole spirit of it still. That's why I'm amazed at that purity spiral. Like, oh, the only version that matters is the trials of the Ritz and that kind of shit. It's like, it's almost like a gatekeeping thing that I just got so sick of. Like, the whole, especially with like vintage men's fragrances, it's like, like let people enjoy whatever damn version they can get their hands on.
Right.
Because like, honestly, like a lot of the, I mean, like trying to get like older formulations, like it's like we were talking about earlier, like, yeah. Oh, so you're telling people they must spend $450 on a 30 mil of Kuros from 1981. No.
And there are definitely certain situations where a vintage version is going to have some differences. And if you get it,
true,
like if it's good quality, if it's in good condition versus a good condition current, it's going to be a little like, for like one that always comes to mind is like a polo green. That opening in the vintage is so much better than the one in the current version. Yeah. But when it dries down, it's not that much different. You know what I mean? So either one is fine. But if I had to pick, of course, I would want to get a Cosmere version.
And at least with that one, you wouldn't have to spend the same kind of money because there are so many bottles of old, old versions in circulation that if you wanted to spend like, I don't know, like 80 to $100 on an old version, that's versus like something like Kuros where the hype is like insane. You would have for a original version of that, it would be 3 to 4 times more than that. I'm going to take a look at the chat very quickly here. Jean-Qui Sent, wonderful to have you here. Paco Raban à la nuit. Beautiful choice. Salvador says, I feel like all Louis Vuitton is overrated. Not sorry. Yeah, the exclusive, the bottles, the I don't know what they're calling that line, but none of them are that exciting. God, there have been so many bad Tom Ford ones too. I agree. UK says Van Cleef and Arpels has kind of a Dracula vibe, but I like it. Yes, I agree with you there. Pommier by Chanel is top tier gentlemanly for me. Please talk about that. I feel like Kellen would like that if he hasn't tried it. Kellen, what are your thoughts on Pommier?
You know what? Like as soon as you said that, it reminds me of this. It reminds me of Nita Ricci.
Oh, here you go. Well, that's like a direct descendant, pretty much.
Yeah. Straight up, that one. I had it. I had the Eau de Parfum, which I got first, and then I had the EDT, and I sold both of them. They were good. They were good, not great. Simple as that. Like they're good. They're great scent. Like, but I have stuff that like a citrus aromatic. That I liked better at, you know what I mean? And I have like Eau Sauvage or Armani Eau pour Homme. Now, Eau Sauvage is one where the vintage is like, don't waste your time buying that. Just get the current one. It's equally as good and way less money. Like that was one where I was like, I wish I never spent the money on.
Yeah, well, with Eau Sauvage, a lot of people talk about, the whole oak moss thing where people obsess over oak moss as if like
I've done it.
I've done it too. I think we've all been through that phase where we're like, well, ever since oak moss was restricted, it ruined perfumery. And it's like, it's not necessarily true. The more that you learn about it. And the thing with like Eau Sauvage is even though it did have a little bit more oak moss, it wasn't really that much more. And that's another one of those fragrances where it's like, it's a gamble to try to get an older bottle because it is a citrus aromatic, and the citrus aromatics, they just don't age well. So you really have to be careful.
They don't.
And you have to risk, like, it took me 3 bottles of like Toffee Lancôme as well, because like the first 2 bottles completely turned.
I have no idea what that is.
Toffee Lancôme?
Yeah,
like a trophy, the bottle that has... Yeah.
Okay, so you
I was saying it in French. Toffee Lancôme. Trophy.
I wasn't picking up on that trophy. I love that one, and I got a bottle that was iffy, and and every other one I've got from them has been perfect too. And I sold one, still have another 100 ml. I got one that's in the golf ball, like you take the golf ball cap on and it's like a half sphere of a golf ball. I got that. Yeah.
That's another direct descendant of Pomessier, but I love
way grassier.
Yeah, way grassier. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about golf, so you gotta have a little bit of grass in there,
Yeah.
Mr. Calvin, can we have a live spraying of Naughton and Wilson Arezzo from Kelan? A live spraying.
I'd have to go get that one. It's not.
Do you want to get up and do you want to honor this man's request? Or
is that a must? Do you want me to do that?
I don't know. You're not getting any demands from me. It's up to you if you want to please our
have
little
you tried
Muppet
that
here.
One?
I have not, but I've heard some good things about.
Yeah, it was. I like that one, and Dan was nice enough to send me that bottle. That one was, and I got into really spicy stuff this year. I did enjoy that one a lot. I love out of the ones I've tried, the original, Bon Vivant, and Arezzo. Arezzo I like, and Bon Vivant, they're like neck and neck. And then the original one is good, but I think the other two are actually better than that one.
I was curious about the Chez Parfuminaire.
Yeah, no, I haven't tried that one yet, and I didn't try. What is it called? Not like the Essenza one. What's that one called? Gravitas Essenza.
Gravitas Essenza. Well, Mr. Calvin, I don't think that Kellan's going to be, jumping and getting this bottle and spraying it on himself. He's not really feeling it right now, but sorry that. But if you want to ask, okay, you want to ask me to spray something in my collection, I'll do it if you send me a super chat or a coffee or two. Maybe I'll do that. Salvatore Sacca. I love JJ speaking against blind consumerism, which we disguise, rationalize as just a hobby. So important in this day and age. Yeah, let's call it for what it is. Like, we become, locked into this hedonic treadmill of consumerism. And, we have to kind of reconcile that with our hobby. We spend money, we spend too much money, and we sell and we regret and we don't regret. It's like just this hamster wheel. Sean H, I think Balenciaga Poron smells amazing, but for most of my life it was $20 to $30 at TJ Maxx. I paid $80 for one and I'm not regretting it, but such is life. There you go. He has his bottle there.
Yeah, this was one I got recently and I made a review of it and everything, and this was one of the first times in a while when I sprayed something on and I was like, holy crap, like this is awesome. And I have two 50 mLs and a 30 ml of this. And I gave one of my close friends a 30 ml that I had because I got two of them. And these, I bought 100 ml from this one guy who I got the 30 mLs from, right? And he sent it to me and something was off about the scent. I don't think it went bad. It was like very light and had like a menthol smell to it. So I'm like, I don't know if this guy tampered with it, because the 30 mLs were perfect. And they reminded me of the 50 ml that I have that I got from Eros Perfumes on eBay. Eros Perfumes.
I know about that seller.
Perfume outlet. If you message them and you say you heard about from Scents of South Jersey, they give you 10% off. But and they're everything you get, perfect condition. Like it's wrapped. It was awesome. But that 100 ml, the guy definitely like it was weak. And then I remember getting another one where it leaked so much that I had to return it as well too. So I've had my trials and tribulations with that one, but I'm good with what I have now because again, this is not an all year round type of scent, but it smells so good. It's unique. It's kind of got a barbershop powdery vibe, but the opening, the spiciness is absolutely awesome. And it was one that I didn't get for a long time. And I wish it's like when you get it, you're like, God, if I had bought this in 2020 when I first got a sample of it, it would have been $70 less or $100 less then, and to hear that it was at TJ Maxx for $30, like that's crazy. And the same guy that ragged on me about the Caesars Man hype had a short about this, that it was a flop for Balenciaga, like it didn't do well in sales.
No,
that guy's very knowledgeable, not knocking
him
for making fun of me because it actually is pretty funny. But this one, I didn't know that it wasn't very successful. Hence, maybe why it was at TJ Maxx for $30.
There was an enormous amount of dead stock. Balenciaga invested a lot of money on promoting it and advertising it, a huge campaign, and it was like the worst failure for. And I'm trying to remember who was producing Balenciaga fragrances at the time. I think it was Ted Lapidus, actually. Ted Lapidus, because there's actually some Balenciaga fragrances that ended up being rebranded under Ted Lapidus as well. But it was a huge failure for it. They lost a lot of money on it. And that's why all of this dead stock that had been sitting around and nobody wanted it because nobody discovered how good it was. And it just was, I think it landed on the market a few years too late for what it was. It's the same reason that Ténéré by Paco Rabanne wasn't as successful as they hoped it would be. That one wasn't as bad as Balenciaga Porom. That was like an absolute failure. Perfume Temple. Azzaro Porom is maybe the only fragrance I would spend money on an older bottle. UK says Jean Patou Porom or Jean Patow. I remember a certain YouTube friend of ours would say Jean Patow. Still can't get that out of my head. Jean Patou Porom smells like fish plus instant glue on old leather. I love this. Love this description. Fish plus instant glue on old leather, unwearable, most overrated and overpriced in my opinion. Ulrich de Varen's Kananga is overpriced. Smells like a watered down Dior Jules dry down. Kananga is the name of the Ylang Ylang. I don't even know about that one. And I figured, I was up on all the Ulrich de Varen.
Do you know one of those, like the original one, and it was like I think I did a video of it, and I actually sold it in a bundle recently. Because it was like just a little bit left of the bottle. It's like a cheapo Sauvage. It sat in my gym bag for like a year, and like occasionally would get worn when I needed something. And
I think that was kind of like a budget house to begin with.
Like 100%. Yeah.
It was like a drugstore brand.
Definitely.
Like it wasn't like it was sitting on the counter of like Bloomingdale's to begin
Never.
with.
No. Despite the name making you think it sounds fancier than it is.
Like it's like this like haute couture designer brand. Ulrich de Varenne, Créateur de Parfum, Paris. Oh, Paris. That must mean it's legit. I'm looking up Kananga, and Kananga. Oh, the listing on Fragrantica doesn't even show anything. I didn't even know about it. I don't really care to know about it. I'm just going to trust your opinion, UK. I'm not going to even look into it further. Sean H. P.S. Hello, everyone. LOL. Yes, there's a lot of LOL tonight. Scent of the day, vintage Bijan. Got it for $25. Nice. What do you think of Bijan? Bijan Porom.
It's like a love hate. It smelled like when you have it on. I'm like, oh, this isn't so bad. But then other times I'm like, oh, this is horrific. I smell like a gym locker room, like armpit. But it's good. It's like a very brash, almost. So there's some vanilla in it too. Like it's one of the scents I talked about that it's like awesomely bad, right? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Lapidus Porom. Like there's been times like initially I thought I loved it, and then every time I wear it, I'm like, oh man, like I smell like a incense at a bodega in Philadelphia somewhere, like some random store where they sell. There was one place, it doesn't exist anymore, but you could go in there and like it just reminded me of like truck stop soap mixed with incense, mixed with like the even church incense, also like just an air freshener. Like that's like everything but the kitchen sink type of smell. That one is interesting. But Bijan is not as complex as that, but it is definitely like love hate. And I just think it's funny that on the Bijan website, it still costs like $300 for the cologne.
What the fuck?
But you can go buy it like on a fragrance net for like $1,
Right. What the hell? Bijan, you're ridiculous. Do you think anybody's actually going to snatch that for that kind of money? Give me a break.
Maybe somebody that like just doesn't know and wore Bijan their whole life,
God. Yeah, and I think it's changed a bit from the 80s too. The 80s is even like less nuanced. It's like a pong monster. It's like really, but I love it though in a way, like you said, like it's just so like it's so garish and like so like like a taxi cab driver would be wearing it like the same.
Yeah, like cigarettes and
totally
leather and like beef jerky all at the same time.
I kind of love that. I love that. I don't know. I was just wearing this niche fragrance, Marlou Paris Ambulux, and I fucking I sprayed so many sprays of it on me yesterday. It is like one of the most animalic fragrances that I've ever, like, I felt so uncomfortable and I wasn't even in public. I was like, I work from home and I was just alone working from home and thinking to myself, like, I hope nobody can smell what I'm smelling right now. But I actually enjoyed it too. It was just like, I felt so conflicted. And it's just kind of funny how certain fragrances are like that. Like, it's like you get some sort of enjoyment out of it, but you're also kind of feel like this would be offensive
Yeah,
if I
like
actually
it's
wore it out.
uncomfortable. You feel uncomfortable
Yeah, you feel
sometimes.
kind of uncomfortable about it, but that's the beauty of fragrance, though. Like, you could have all of these rich experiences, even though you would never want to wear them in public. Moving forward here, Polo Green was mostly Evernoel and tree moss, as far as I know, with a little oak moss. Absolute, still my favorite. You're absolutely right, Sean. Um, for all of this, I think it's kind of waned a little bit, the whole oak moss obsession. I still see it come up sometimes in forums and stuff. But all that, people still think it's banned. It's not even banned. It's just restricted. And a lot of people don't realize that they didn't even really need to use that much oak moss for it to have impact in a formula anyways. And much of it was bolstered by Evernoel, and also, like you said, tree moss, which is a different kind of lichen. So this obsession with that, I would love to be able to research the origins of where the conversation started, where people said that the reduction of oak moss and fragrance was the death of perfumery, because it's so humorous to me. Ricardo Neves, what about Sorcinelli's bottles? Bro chose the wrong craft. Are you talking about the ones that look like pewter boogers on the side? Dude, Kelan, have you ever heard of this Sorcinelli? He has like a few different brands. Um, you should see the bottles are crazy, dude.
No, I never even heard of it.
No, but they look like, some of them are kind of like cool, sort of sculptural, kind of avant-garde stuff, but some of them are like, what the hell? What kind of drugs is this guy taking? But there's one line that he recently released. Oh, I think I found it. So you can look it up on your end if you can. Oh, I found it, dude. You got to look at the bottle. All right. So it is the Atmosphere d'Emotion Collection. So look up Vento Forte. If you open up like another tab and look up Fragrantica, just type in Vento, Vento, then a space, then Forte. It's the first thing that comes up, Vento Forte Extrait de Parfum, Filippo Sorcinelli, and you'll see the bottle. And it is like the most hideous damn bottle cap that I've ever seen.
Yeah, never heard of that one before.
Yeah. So can you open up a tab on do you have like a browser?
I have my phone up. I'm not doing this.
Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry. I'll send it to you later. But Jesus Christ, it looks just so freaking grody, man. I don't know what I think about him as a perfumer. There's some sort of like weird kind of like messiah complex thing going on with him. Like, I don't really understand. Like some of these indie perfumers, they really, they go too far off of the deep end for me. All right, we have famous YouTuber. Okay, it's Kelan. Yep, that is true. My wife's seen. We're a little bit behind here. My wife saw it at Marshall's, took a pic, but didn't buy it. It was gone the next day. Duncan, let us know what you were talking about. Sean H says Jacques Bogart produced Balenciaga Param. Jacques Bogart. I apologize. It's Jacques. I often get Jacques Bogart and Ted Lapidus confused because they're similar in a way.
Definitely.
UK says, JJ Kelan, what reformulated versions of scents do you find better than the first versions? I'm going to hand it over to you, Kelan, to answer that question.
What reformulated fragrances do I find better than the first?
Than the original versions.
Yeah. Azara Poron, for sure. I think it's actually rougher than the vintage. One vintage I had, it was like very, very soapy, whereas the current one was like rougher, more the anise or anise, however you say it, in the beginning. And that was one I initially didn't like either, and I came around on it. And like after I think a year, I was just like, oh wow, this is actually awesome. I was wrong, So that one I know I like. Like I would buy a big 6-ounce bottle of that, 6.7 over a vintage bottle any day of the week, because I don't think it's that much different, but I just think it's rougher and more rugged than the vintage was, at least the vintage that I had. So that's a good example. It might be hard for me to think of one. I know one I wanted to bring up when the question was, what was one that you that was hyped up that you thought was going to be great and you hated it, was Eau de Czar. Have you ever tried that one?
Oh, it's kind of the flanker of Tsar. Oh, the
Yeah.
Tsar. Yeah, that one was pointless.
Horrible. It smelled like sour watermelon. It was so disgusting.
Yeah.
And I thought that was one I bought on more than one occasion, because the first bottle I'm like, oh, it must have turned. The second bottle,
no,
I'm like,
it's
nope,
Calone.
this is just what it smells like. You know what I mean? And it was awful.
It's a lot of Calone. It has nothing to do with the original Tsar. It's just like an unfortunate decision that was made in the 90s to hop on the trend of like the aquatic. It's not good at all.
Aquacorum, that sucked too. That was so bad.
That is no. The Quorum Silver is very nice though. It's actually like, I've mentioned that one is like a really good cedar fragrance.
Cedar, that's right. I had a sample of it, never bought a bottle, but the Aquacorum was just, I didn't like that one at all. The original one I didn't like, and then I had the aftershave, and the aftershave smelled a little bit more vintage. And then I got the vintage, and I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty good. And I only have a little bit left of the current version, which is decent. It just is not as rugged, but it's still good.
Vintage Paco Rabanne is pretty good. What do you think? Do you have a preference for the? There were a lot of different formulations and variations of that fragrance over the 50 odd years of its existence. Do you have any preference for one, or?
Yeah, I have a 90s one, or either 90s or early. I think it's a 90s bottle, and it smells amazing. I've gotten really old ones, and they have turned, or they've smelled like they're turned, like they're flat. They were not good. But I think the current one is still awesome too. I love both of them. If I ran out of it, but I still had a ton, I wouldn't go running to buy another vintage bottle. Like Sport de Paco Rabanne, that one, I liked. But I ended up selling all of that because I didn't think it was as good as that was one sort of where it was more money than and then after a while, the things I'll like, and then over time wearing it again, and I'm just like, oh, this isn't as good as the original. Like this one, it's just cool, and it's rare, and it's the thrill of the chase as well. That sort of
a lot of it ends up being more the thrill of the chase than the actual fragrance itself. And then once you have the fragrance in your acquisition and you realize, wow, this was just my compulsivity, you smell it, and it's like, I don't really know. I don't know.
It's okay. You know what I mean? Any day of the week, not 10 times out of 10, I pick the original any day over.
Yeah.
That was one where that happened to me too. And I got rid of them. I mean, it's cool. That's why it's instead of just keeping them, I'm like, okay, well, I'll sell them off. And there are people that want it.
Yeah. As long as they still have a demand for the collectors. Salvador Saka, my friend. I'm gonna say so official. It's Salvador Saka. Wait now, I'm intrigued by Kelan's take on number 88. I wonder if Kelan, are you familiar with number 88 from Check and Speak?
No, never tried.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite fragrances, actually. Check and Speak. It came out in the early 80s. British house of Check and Speak. I don't know if you would be really into it, because I know that you're much more oriented to aromatics and fougères than deep chypres, but it's a little bit more on the chypre side. It has a lot of geranium in it, some rose, not the Van Cleef and Arpels rose though. It's not quite like that. And it's very much like a chypre base. It's really like a dark gothic kind of fragrance, but it's lovely stuff. I mean,
did you speaking of gothic? Do you like that Salvador Dali Poro?
Yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, I like that one. But I have a feeling if I were to guess, that wouldn't be you wouldn't be crazy about that one. Am I right?
I think I had a whole video where I dumped on it.
I knew it. I know what your taste is like. I know what you would gravitate to. Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, number 88 it does have some aromatic elements to it, but it is very intense. It's very intense. It's an acquired taste. I would be the first to admit to it, but it's absolutely gorgeous as far as I'm concerned. But I would predict that if you were to try it, you'd be like, I don't know about this.
Does it come in is it only come in those massive splash bottles, or is it
No. I mean, they come in atomizers nowadays. When it was first released, I don't know, but yeah, they come in atomizers. It's a pretty expensive fragrance. It's not like a cheap house at all. There's another
Why am I
fragrance.
thinking it's a cheap house? Why am I? Maybe I'm thinking like that Floyd.
Oh, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Or like Taylor of, there's another one, Taylor of London. No, it's not like it's
Bond
actually
Street. Yeah.
more expensive. It is like a bottle will run you like $160 or something.
Okay.
Um,
All right. Yeah. So that's
but do you know any of the Trumpers? GOF. I'm sure you know about Trumpers, but not what I'm not talking about. G,
GOF
G,
Trumper. Which one have I
GOF
tried?
Trumper. Yeah.
I think you know what? I remember like looking at those and wanting to buy them. This is a while back, and I never did. I know there's like Eucharist, right? There's Sandalwood, um, and then there was one brand that I was looking at buying too. It was very similar to GF Trumper, because GF Trumper had one like Fresh Limes or something like that, and I had Royal Caribbean. I Royal something, I forget what it was called, like a lime fragrance, you know, like that you would get at like, it would be sold like a Brooks Brothers, you know, like they would sell that there. But there was another brand,
yeah.
Truefoot and Hill. That was another one. They had,
Yeah.
and that was like they had the whole body line thing too. And I would seek out brands, but a lot of times my experience with that is when you get them, the fragrances are just so-so. They're not GF Trumper, but like the other ones, and like they're not cheap either. Like they're not cheap enough to where it doesn't matter. They'll be like $70 for an eau de cologne, and they may have some, you know, that's how the not GF Trumper, the other one I just mentioned.
Truefoot and Hill. Truefoot and Hill. I mean, obviously they use some pretty good quality ingredients. They're pretty sensible. They're very, like, that's the word I would use for it, for that house. It's like very sensibly British. None of them really stand out where it's like, wow, they're the best at the game with sandalwood, or they're the best at the game for this, you know, citrus. You know, like, you know, they don't really stand out to me. They like none of
Exactly.
them that I've
Like
tried.
I
Yeah.
loved the West Indian lime. Like I loved Crabtree and Evelyn's West Indian lime, and like that was a bottle that like one of my friends down at the Jersey Shore at one point just left, and I'm like, oh cool, he's never coming back here. I'm gonna keep this cologne. You know? And I killed the bottle. Then there were other brands that had a West Indian lime, and you get them, and they were not like St. John's. You get it, and it just smells like baby powder. I'm like, oh, this is nothing like the crap, you know. So I think you're right. Like they're just okay. They're not standout. They have cool names like Truth and Hill, like Trafalgar, based on the Battle of Trafalgar and stuff like that. And I'm a history buff. I would get suckered into buying something like that and think it's
Totally,
great.
yeah. You know, the distinguished British history. Crabtree and Evelyn, rest in peace. Completely gone. I used to
All
go
gone.
into the stores even when they were, you know, even to the very end. But they had some good ones back in the day. They had a really good sandalwood back in the day.
They did, yeah. And the West Indian lime was great. So I found another bottle of it. And I found it the other day, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Haven't touched this in a while. It was like maybe a little less than half full. Put it up, you know, got $40 for it. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, that's cool. You know.
Claire, lovely to see you. Great to have you here. Famous YouTuber says, Kelan tried Jean Couturier Douce. Douce is 12 in French. It's become a favorite fougere of mine. Are you familiar with the 12 from Jean Couturier?
Yeah, I actually got that as a sample when I bought some stuff from Anuj once, and I was not super crazy about it, to be honest with you.
I like somebody who's fastidious. It's only going to serve you well because you're not overspending. You know, right? I like 12 or Deuce. I like the geranium in it. I like that one very much. Very snazzy bottle as well. Overspraying Ambilix is a bold move, right? I'm a little far behind here. We're at 8:30, and I'm only getting to some of the chats from 8:16, 8:17. Also, I love Oscar Pour Lui, one of the best reformulations ever.
Definitely. Vintage is better, but that one still is awesome. Whatever formulation you get, I love it. I love that. Yeah.
I only have a sample of some vintage Paco Rabanne Pour Homme. It was a bit richer and a bit more clean musk, whereas the modern is just soapy. I don't get any musk. Yes, the older versions are soapier.
Beast mode too. Stuff lasts for like literally 24 hours.
Oh yeah, and forget about it if it's on your clothes too. Sean H, between actually getting Oak Moss Absolute and smelling it and learning from Varanus Radari, I went from the Oak Moss guy to understanding it. You still like what you like, but Oak Moss wasn't always so. It isn't always about the Oak Moss, people. Oak Moss is a very cool material, but it doesn't make or break fragrances, especially men's fragrances. Famous YouTuber Filippo makes fragrances for the Pope, Filippo Sorcinelli. I was talking about Balenciaga Porom at Marshall's. We're so far behind. Oh, wow. Vento Forte bottle is truly hideous. Wish I could unsee that. Oh, the Vento. Wait, Vento Forte. Yeah, he looked it up. Yeah, the Filippo Sorcinelli. I wish I could share it. I don't know. Can I share stuff here? Hold on a second.
I think you can. I know that.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I couldn't look it up too, but
No. Let's see if I can do it. If not, it's not the end of the world, but I'll give it a try. All right. Share screen. Share screen. I think, and now it's saying use operating system settings. I'm going to hit allow. The browser can't access your screen. Try capturing a different screen. Ah, snap. All right. Well, people who are watching, look up Vento Forte, Filippo Sorcinelli. All you have to do is type in Vento Forte. It looks like there is a pewter booger against the bottle. It is one of the most hideous bottles I've ever seen. Sean H. LOL, it's funny Kelan said that about the new Paco Rabanne Porom. I thought the 2001 bottle was pretty rough. Herbally, it really goes over the top, in my opinion. Eventually gets soapy and nice. But herein lies the truth about formulations, is that they're not always like, progressively worse. They can improve on them. And the reason why they can improve on them is because sometimes like regulations change and they can kind of get back to like the way that it was a little bit when like they loosen some restrictions. And I think that's happened maybe with that one. It's also happened with Kuros. It's happened with Fahrenheit, where certain formulations are not so hot and then they kind of get back to its original form in later formulations. Neroli turned me off from SAR, made me hideous. I think they both intended to do the same thing, heavy freshness. See how far behind we are? I don't even know what they're talking about at this point. I have the other two, Sunshine and Bracken. Beach Hut was a bit weird to me. I don't agree with most of Kellen's takes, but I love his passion and realist. Hey, that's what it's all about. We can't agree upon everything. It's the core of it is that we're all nerding out about fragrance. So even if our tastes are like a little bit different, that's why with Kellen, I'm not going to try to push on like I know what you are about, like how you are about like fragrances and marketed a woman. I'm not going to try to like force you to like, yeah, you got, what I mean? Like, and I'm not going to force you to get into like, I don't know, new niche. Cause like, I know what your taste is like. And I like respect that. You know what annoys me? And I'm sure you've gotten this too, is it's like where somebody's like, oh, you're really restricting yourself. Like you should open your mind up. Like, it's like, just like let people enjoy what they enjoy. Stop being such a douchebag about it and let people enjoy what they enjoy. Kellen, if you haven't smelled Eucharist, I think you would completely love it. Super clean and super sharp fougere. Actually, Kellen, Eucharist kind of reminds me of a little bit of number 88 from Check and Speak, although it's more affordable.
Is that still being made, Eucharist? Yeah, right?
Eucharist is still, did I sound like you said uterus?
Oh, did it? Sorry, Eucharist. I said
no, Eucharist. It's okay. Uterus. Eucharist is the Eau de Parfum version is quite nice. It wears like an eau de toilette, because go figure these days an eau de parfum wears like an eau de toilette. Bracken is my is my top 5, possibly. I truly love it. Louder for Men is easily my favorite fougere. What's your take on Louder for Men?
That's a good one. That one's I have it. You know what? Like that's one that I have that I know I like, and I featured it in a country, like 10 country club style fragrances. And in that video, I talked about Trophy, I talked about Polo, and I talked about Loud. It's very, very classy, wet dew on the morning grass after a rain type of smell. That one is, I need to make a review of that one. And I definitely enjoy it. And I think it has been discontinued, right?
Oh, I don't even know.
Yeah,
I mean, that would be sad if it was discontinued, but I guess, it's a sign of the times. I think it's gorgeous.
Yeah, that's a very good one. I don't have a vintage version, but I love the version that I have too. So it's like sufficient for me. And that's another thing. Like if you get something and it's awesome, like I have been guilty of this a million times. You get that like, oh, I'm missing out. I need to hurry up and get like you panic buy, or you buy something that's because you see that other people have it. And in some cases it is better, but in some cases like that, like I don't know how much better it could possibly be. In fact, the chances of it being sort of like off are high, I would imagine, in that scent. I feel like there's a lot of things in that scent that could go bad,
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it is really built on aromatics. It's sort of like an aromatic fougere slash Chypre kind of hybrid.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful use of florals in a masculine fragrance, which goes to show you that florals can really make a masculine fragrance, um, because it uses florals in a really interesting effect with a juxtaposition, because it has the jasmine and the lily of the valley. It has like a carnation. Carnation to me is more unisex anyways, but the way that it contrasts with all of these beautiful aromatics in the top notes, like the coriander, clary sage, it's very green, but it's also kind of yellow as well, like sunny. There's like a sunny kind of feel to it as well, you know.
Yeah,
Just
I know what you mean. Yeah, it's like
yeah,
the very, like you're getting a, like if it rained in the evening and that night and then the sun rises, there's still a little bit of that like
totally,
wet grassy air.
like the rain from overnight
Right.
evaporating on the grass.
Yeah,
Totally.
for sure. That's a good
Yeah,
way to
yeah.
describe it. Do you like rogue perfumery, that Manuel Cross's stuff? Talk
I
about oak
appreciate
moss.
his work. Yeah, I do appreciate it. I never got to the point where I added it to my curated museum of fragrances, but I have a lot of respect for him. I think he is really deft at um, constructing some classic motifs in fragrance. I think he does a great job at that.
Like
I
if
don't
you
know.
can't get this Gucci Nobile, then go get Bon Monsieur, because that
Oh
one
yeah,
is, it's so a little bit denser, because probably just because it's newer. But I mean, I love, this is one of the great, like when I discovered this, I mean, this was like the be all end all of Fougères, one of them, you know, definitely one in my holy grail collection of stuff. Like this one, I think is so good. I had Max Forti hit me up one time and we did a Zoom call. He was just talking to me about that. He's like, oh wait, you have some stuff, you have some Gucci Nobi bottles, and so I said, yeah. And he wanted to buy some of the partials that I had, so I sold them to him. And then eventually, I just had one 4-ounce bottle left. So then I bought this one and then another one like 2 weeks ago. And somebody reached out to me and said, like, I really want that. I saw your video. I really want that one. And I said, the only way it's worth me selling at this point, because I literally just bought it, is if you give me X amount. And he did. He really wanted it too. So I threw in a bunch of samples for him. So now I'm down to just 2 of these. But, you know, one of them I think has got like 2/3 left, which is, you know, again, it's like going to last me a long, long time. You have to remind yourself that sometimes. But, you know, like even the body line with this, like having the deodorant spray, having the shower gels, and vintage shower gels, I bought them, and sometimes they are rank. You know, sometimes they're great, other times they're not. You know,
I imagine that some of those deteriorate because of whatever's contained in the formula for a shower gel. Like I always
yeah.
kind of wondered, like, how do those other amenities, I don't know, parts of the line, how they age over time? And I kind of wondered that. Like some of them like must spoil really badly. Like you
I've
wouldn't want.
gotten spoiled, something spoiled of everything. I think I've gotten a
Yeah,
spoiled aftershave splash. I've gotten a balm that's like disgusting. That, you know, you're like, I'm not putting this on my face. And most of the time, I could return them. Sometimes
yeah,
sometimes things are so cheap, it's like it's not worth the time to go to the gas station, and I'll just like toss it, you know. But
yeah.
or the gas station, excuse me, the gas to get to the post office is what I meant to say.
The gas
So
station, I was like, I'm just gonna, like, yeah, you're right. I was
right,
just going
right.
along with
Like so, but certain shower gels, like when they're good, like I still have this big one of Polo Crest, and
yeah.
it smells so good. And I have a Polo Green shampoo that smells amazing, and those are vintage.
Oh, that's
And
kind of cool.
I have a Balenciaga Pour Homme shower gel that smells really good.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Because I
Um,
always thought like if it's like in a gel or a cream or a lotion form, it's like super risky because there's like, I don't know. I still think of things like the chemistry of a material. Like it's all like if they're oily or creamy, like what's gonna happen to
you're
those
right. No, if
things?
it's bad, they all smell the same. I got a Gucci Nobile one, and you put it on, and you're like, this sort of smells like a rotten Dracar Noir. Like this is not
Yeah,
good, you know.
yeah.
And then, you know, I'll like keep it for a photo for the Instagram collection so that it's there, and then I just get rid of it, you know. So
Yeah. You do the photo shoot, and it's like, thank you for your service. Okay, you can get retired now.
right.
Uh, famous YouTuber Zazine. Do you mean Zizane? Zizane from Fragonard? Zizane, a sandalwood fragrance. It's in a silver, almost kind of like a sparkly kind of not sparkly, but it's like this kind of shiny silver. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like this weird kind of like, it kind of reminds me of like those stickers that were popular when we were kids, like back in the 80s. But it's just like that. There's like a certain kind of texture to the bottle that's silver, and it's made by Fragonard. Are you talking about that one, Duncan? Because that one is pretty nice. It is a classic. I think Frank Sinatra wore Zizani. Polo Crest has more oak moss absolute. The buttery thing in the dry down is oak moss. Interesting. Very interesting. Reminder, folks, that if you want to support this content while I'm doing this thing on YouTube, buy me a coffee. 12 cups gets you a 4-bottle mystery grab bag plus a sample pack from my endless supply of samples. If you should choose to get just the sample pack, that is 6 cups. This is US only. I am only able to ship to the US at this time. So if you are interested in contributing, even if it means less than 6 or 12 cups, just visit the link that is pinned in the chat, buymeacoffee.com/Joseph Kolb P. And thank you very much. And also, we're going to do a like check here. Don't forget to hit the like if you haven't already clicked a like. We have 34 people who are tuned in. At the moment, I'm going to refresh the likes here. We have a pathetic 21. That is ridiculous. We have 34 people who are tuned in right now. Each and every one of you should hit the like. We should try to hit 40 likes by the end of this live stream. We are currently in at 1 hour and 41 minutes. We could run about 2 hours or a little over 2 hours, but let's try to aim at least for 45. We have a lot of viewers right now. 35 viewers right now, and that is just terrific. Let's take a look at the chat here. It's a metal bottle like a Rive Gauche, Zizani. Elvis Wars, Zizani. Elvis.
Do you like Rive Gauche?
Rive Gauche. Rive Gauche Forum, it's nice. Soapy barbershop. I actually prefer the original. But that's not the topic of the conversation because that's a floral aldehyde. We can't talk about that tonight.
The original,
like the original.
women's version. Is that what you're saying?
The women's version is better, yeah.
Have you tried this one, the limited edition light?
I actually have not tried that one. Is that an improvement to the original?
Yeah, they're very close. I have both, but this one's like a mintier one. I just got it not too long ago. It smells awesome, and it lasts. You don't think it's there, and then you just like, oh wow, I just got a mega whiff of Rive Gauche. I think this one smells very good. It's very close. They had an intense too, and I had an opportunity to buy that from somebody, but I made an offer, didn't accept it, and I was just like, I already have the original. I'm sure it's not that much better. A lot of times, like, you have to remember it's probably not as good as you think it is.
That's true.
Yeah. You were talking about polo, JJ. Have you ever seen this?
Men's Classic. Let's zoom in so we can get a closer look at that.
So men's like
Classic.
It's an article, and nothing on the back, no brand or anything like that. This is just what it says. Forgive me for the.
It's just made by Men's Classic Inc. The famous Men's Classic.
And you open it up and look, it's got the pattern on the inside. I always think that's so cool. They used to do that
when they do like the repeated name Men's Classic.
And it's got this guy doing like a discus, like he's at the Greek Olympics or something. And it's cologne. And I put it on, and it's a polo clone. It's 100%. It's a very, very good vintage polo clone. Like I think there's oak moss in this. And then I was like messing with the box, and I looked, and if you can see, what does that look like right there? 4711 is what that says. So it's, I guess, from that brand, which is Maurer and Wertzer, I believe.
Maurer and Wertz, yeah.
Yeah, but 4711 made men's class. Like this would be something that you'd buy at like Walmart like a long time ago.
Yeah.
They have that classic match version of polo, but that one smells very burnt. Like I don't like that one. I you know what I mean? I remember buying that, and thinking, because like that's another thing that used to happen too. People will say like, well, what's the cheaper version of it or the alternative version, which is cool. Like I don't hate on clones. I think clones are a great thing. For somebody that doesn't want to, can, or whatever, doesn't matter. And you can get an idea of what it is. But this one is interesting because it's like, it's just called Men's Classic, but you put it on and you're like, oh, this is a Ralph Lauren, knockoff.
Totally a knockoff. Duncan, aka famous YouTuber, I actually have the Great Trinity of Egner fragrances right by my side, including the silver eau de toilette. This is a lovely fragrance from the mid-'80s, 1984 to be exact.
What is that one?
This is Silver by Etienne Egner.
Oh, okay. I
A-I-G-N-E-R.
had a soapy. I forget what it was called. I think it was
Number
a
2,
numerical.
probably.
What was it?
There's a number 2, which is like a soapy one.
Yeah, I think it was that. I think it was number 2. Yeah, that one was okay. Do you remember? I remember we talked about this a long time ago, and I think we bought them from the same person, but I swore mine was sour and I returned it. And it was called Eau Masculine by what's the brand?
Bourgeois?
Bourgeois, yes, that's it.
Bourgeois sitting next to me. Oh wow, this stuff is heaven. Heaven. It is just the apotheosis of masculine fragrances. It is everything that I love about like a rugged, herbal, like rustic kind of fragrance, with a little bit of animal magic to it, like some castoreum in it as well. Yeah, this is what they call a holy grail. This is what they call a unicorn now. Like, it's so hard to find. It wasn't really in production for very long, so there aren't too many bottles left over. But yeah, Egner Silver, if you happen upon this, and I'm not going to encourage people to spend a lot of money on it. So I've made this recommendation with people many times before. Just be patient. Just wait. I don't know if you do this, Kelan, but I have save searches, and I wait for the save searches, like for a notification to come in, and then I decide from there, like, do I want to spend that money on it? No, I'll wait. I'll wait until it's cheaper. And then finally one day, something's going to be listed, and it's going to be a price that I can't refuse, and that's when I get it. And that's the kind of thing that you want to do with silver, because a lot of sellers who sell stuff like this are in the know that it's really in demand, and they'll try to sell it for like a ridiculous amount of money. But you're going to find somebody who really isn't aware of that, and they'll sell it for cheaper, and that's when you want to grab it, you want to pounce on it. But this is part of the trinity of Egner fragrances: the silver, and then we have let's see here. Oh, this is super fragrance. So super fragrance is the second fragrance that was marketed to men by Egner. It's actually the men's version. There was a female super fragrance, and here is the bottle of super fragrance.
Almost looks like Xarius a little bit from back where I'm sitting.
A little bit, yeah.
Like, so it's got that black,
kind of, yeah, that kind of interesting sort of like opal, like pearlescent sheen to it. But when you hold this up to, like through light, it actually is brown glass, but it has that opalescent sheen. Yeah, this one is really just like this understated, nuanced, beautiful, musky, herbal kind of scent. That's the second one of the trinity. And then the third one, which was the first, is the number 1 eau de toilette. And I still have it in the box here. This is not the original version that was in like a cylindrical bottle. But you don't need to have the original version. I'm not one of those, doofuses. Like, you have the original version. You have that. I'm like, because this one smells fantastic. This is the 90s version of number 1, which is this beautiful, suave, sophisticated, herbaceous, spicy leather fragrance. Number 1 eau de toilette from Etienne Egner.
Do you keep the boxes?
Sure do, unless they didn't come with a box. Some of them don't come with a box, and I'm a little upset that they didn't, but it's better than not having it at all. Sure
right, no, for sure. I just wasn't sure if you kept them. Yeah, no,
absolutely. I don't know why people throw away the boxes. The boxes have value, and if ever at one point, like, don't think that like you're going to be obsessed with fragrance for your entire life. Who knows if you're going to be like 60 and you're like, you know what, I'm going to sell a lot of these. You have the box, and the box is part of the value.
Full people prefer to goes have a long way.
Right. And also for transporting them. Like, do you really want to have to like wrap everything in bubble wrap 10 times over when you have a box, which can be a buffer? Don't chuck the box. And the boxes can be fucking cool too. Sometimes the boxes are cooler than the bottle. Like,
no, 100%
in the box. Yeah, I mean, if you're really like a serious collector of fragrance, why in hell would you throw away the box. Totally. You got to hold on to the box. Oh, this is the bourgeois, the or masculine. I have it sitting here, and this is a splash.
Yeah, see, mine were spray. See that now? That one reminded me a lot of like a lot of other fragrances too. So I ended up selling both of those. I just was sort of like not crazy. And the one that's the more lighter version, I think it had a red cap, red and gold logo. I think that might have been Eau Masculine 2 or something like that. I forget that one.
2, yeah, the more aromatic. Yeah.
Yeah, that to
That's
me that
citrusy.
was. I'm pretty sure I got mine and it was sour, and I just was like,
Oh, that stinks. I like this one a lot. I do like this one a lot. I like the original Masculin. There was one that actually came before this, which is the rarest of all of them, which is the rarest. Here I am with a hype machine. The rarest. It's the rarest of them all. But it came out a few years before this one, and it's lovely. If you like things like Monsieur Rochat or Equipage, it's kind of in that same vicinity. I guess what I can do is do some show and tell with some of the stuff that I have sitting next to me here. Oh, you hate Zeno? Damn you! I love Zeno. You hate it?
Oh yeah. Oh, it's so bad. That one was one that it was just like, and that also made me realize how much I don't like the Terry Mugler fragrances, like that. You know those.
Well, yeah, I think they were heavily inspired by that.
Patchouli's done right. Like I see, but I love Tom Ford's Beau de Jour, and everyone goes, "How could you not like that?" But you like that, you know. So I get it, but Zeno just to me smells like awful. It smells burnt. There's a burntness to it that I just think is I can't get down with that one. And I got a vintage one and I did a revisit video about it, and the vintage one was definitely a little bit better, but I still wasn't crazy about it. I may just be jaded and it's just never going to work out for me with Zeno, but that is what it is.
You motherfuckers who are tuned in right now, you have 34 people tuned in to this live stream right now. We have 24 likes. We need to get that up to at least 35 likes. If you haven't already liked that stream, this stream, not that one, this one, go ahead and do it. It's the easiest thing to do. I'm not even asking you to buy a coffee. It is just you're taking your cursor or your finger and you're going like this and and it's going to help people see this content. I'm telling you, we can't figure out the algorithms all the way. They don't want us to, honestly. But I really have it on good word that the likes really do help people see your content. And the more likes that the content gets, the more people who can see the stuff that you're enjoying right now. And why not share in that enjoyment? So it's the least that you could do. Right?
Zeno is my most thumbs down video review because of how much I dumped on it. It got a lot of thumbs up
because a lot of people a lot of people love it. They love
the humor aspect. But yeah, I get that one was funny. But you know what? I think it's good. I'm glad people have an opinion on it one way or another. Doesn't bother me whether you like it or not. You know what I mean? And it's and I wish I liked it. Let's put it that way. I haven't really loved any Davidoff fragrance really, except for Good Life, which I like, but I'm over that one, and I have all of mine listed for sale because it's almost like it's worth more to me to sell it than it is to wear it once in a while. You know, I remember having a whole summer where I blew through a bottle and a half of it, and I have several of them, but that's I would say that's my favorite Davidoff. And Zeno I didn't like. Cool Waters, like I have Green Irish Tweed, you know what I mean? It's okay, but that one, again, Zeno I didn't like. The original Davidoff for Men, like that one's a rough wear. Talk about Castoreum, that one's out there.
I love the original Davidoff. I love that kind of stuff. Actually, if people enjoy the original Davidoff with the green liquid, the green juice, they'd really appreciate Egner Silver. As a matter of fact, I'll do a little bit more show and tell here. But
do you have any Bogner fragrances?
Bogner's a weird brand. Like, what's the story with Bogner?
They're a skiing house. It's a big time, like very high end skiing brand. Like
really?
The bibs or the overall, the skiing. So they had a couple of really old school fragrances, and they like, even on eBay I've seen them and they look so old that I'm like I would be afraid to buy them, even though the bottles look super cool. But they have one called Deep Forest.
Oh, I love Deep Forest. That's the one awesome. That I have.
Yeah, I love
really
this
nice.
One. Yeah, I got a deodorant spray and 200 mLs of it, and I wore it skiing. Like it was fun to actually put on up at the house past winter, so.
And for anybody who is having a tough time finding an affordable bottle of Davidoff Relax, that actually is Relax, but an improvement on it. Like it's Relax, but better. Like I feel like they improved upon, like one could argue that they rode on the coattails of Relax and they did their version of it, but I think they improved upon it.
Even
And
the
it's really
bottles
good.
look similar. And
It looks similar, it's a similar color, right?
I was gonna buy a bottle of Relax too at one point, and then
Yeah,
a
yeah.
friend of mine was like, "Oh, I have a sample of it. It's got a lot of vanilla in it. I don't think you'd like it." And then I got this, and I was like, "Oh, this is freaking awesome!" So I just said there was no reason to get the. I may at one point. Some like again, sometimes like like the Casanovas. I bought those because I wanted to try them and make a video about them, and then I can cycle them in and out. That's like my Mercari really funds the YouTube. Like it's just like an in and out type of thing. It works out well.
Yeah, Deep Forest is really nice. That is the one from Bogner that I am familiar with. And yeah, and it's like more than just like a foresty kind of scent. It is kind of like almost sheeper like in the dry down. It has sort of like moss and vetiver. It's really lovely stuff. Yeah, the color of the glass is quite pretty too.
Mint. It's almost there's a mint in there as well. Like it's very like I actually really enjoy that one. I really enjoy that one. See, that's another one that I'm on deck for a video for. Like I should just try to like when I do it, I try to make like 3 or 4 in a day, and then I'll upload them. Sometimes 3 days in a row, sometimes 2 weeks. You know what I mean? But that's how I usually make the reviews.
Do you want to see this crazy thing right here? This is Bacchus. Do you know?
I have it. Yeah. Yeah. I see. You know what? That's also for sale. I'm selling that one.
You're selling Bacchus? I love shit like that. I love these like working class style fragrances. Yeah.
No, I know. And you look at it and like, oh, what's this brute knockoff? You know what I mean? But it's not brute at all.
No.
In fact, it's almost like a mix of Aramis and Czar to me.
Yeah. I think it's like a cool conversational piece. I mean, it smells great too, but I just I found it for pretty cheap at like at a vintage shop actually. So it's like, and the box is like crazy.
I know the box is crazy. I have it up there. I got it with the box, like same type of thing, like the 4.2 ounce splash. Like it's cool. I was sort of like, I don't know, See, it's sometimes I'm like, is this so sour? Then you're like, no, it's not. It's just that's what that cheap, like it has a mix of Aramis, a little bit of Czar, but not the best parts of Czar. Like, and I know that sounds weird to say because I love Czar, but it's very green, but there's like a 60s vibe to it as well.
Yeah, yeah, I like that 60s vibe. I mean, I have another one here, Cravache, the 60s version of Cravache, Robert Piguet. I mean, look at this, the box too, with this like kind of like, I don't know if they're trying to go for like Jackson Pollock here, but I love it. These like these stripes that are on the, like this is the stuff I fetishize too, not just like not just the fragrance itself, just like the fact that things like this existed, sitting on the shelves.
Yeah, presentation was crazy back in the day. Like if you look at that one guy's Instagram, Vintage Parfum, was like he's got like everything under them. Talk about a museum,
It's quite a nice little bottle too. I mean, the box is what makes it though. Like
right.
The box. I found this for a good deal too. I have like the more recent version of Cravache, which is quite nice. And this
now, do you watch other fragrance channels anymore, or do you just sort of focus on your own content?
I just focus on my own. I don't give a shit about anybody else. No, I'm just kidding. No, I still watch other people. I watch your videos when they come up, when you do make them. I had Chris Scentland, who was on Effluvium recently. Sebastian Furtado, he's another YouTuber that I really appreciate. I'm pretty picky now. Like I'm not watching as much. I think you get like to a certain point where it's like you feel like it's like oversaturation. It's like, why do I need to watch too much more? Because like you feel like you've really covered a lot of territory. And some YouTubers just kind of weird me out. Like just some of them just kind of like, what's your intention at this point? Like, are you really interested in the fragrance, or you just want to like go? I don't know. It's kind of interesting what happens in the YouTube fragcom world. Like, do you really want to talk passionately about the fragrance, or you want to sit there and bitch and complain about how other YouTubers are making money off of their content? You know what I mean?
That's a big thing. I see that on like a lot of complaining about that. Like there's definitely your larger channels will do that. And then there's ones that I guess don't like that they do that. And I don't, you know, there might be a level of envy there. I don't know, you know?
I don't know if it's envy or resentment, or they're just trying to create a stir so that people watch them. Like, I'm just not about that. Like, I'm not about it. You know, like I at one point I was a little bit of a provocateur when I was showing up on Mr. Smelly streams, but it just didn't really feel good in the long run. I was like, I don't want to really have this represent me anymore. And thankfully, you know, it happened at a good time, because that whole scene of like live streams kind of phased out. Like, it's not really as big of a thing. I mean,
he was so consistent with it too. Like he was every Friday, and he would do it for a long time. You know, it was and it was fun. I jumped on a couple times. Definitely had some fun with that. But you know, after a while, I mean, just the time it takes to do that. Like even this, you know what I mean? Like you were right. I was just like, when you told me the beginning of March, like I was like 2 hours. Like, what are we gonna do? And hasn't felt like it's been 2 hours, you know what I mean? And like,
because you have to have like you have to feel like there's like a good kind of rapport, and sometimes the rapport isn't there. It's like
when there's 7 people all trying, like that was like, got to be like, I'm just sitting here, I'm not saying anything. I'm like, all right, I got a jet.
Well, when I started doing this, I modeled it a little bit more after like the panel kind of live stream, and I find that like a lot of people are competing for the loudest and most obnoxious voice, and I just did not like it. So I pared it down. So like the second season, it would just be me and another co-host. And then for the third season, I was like, you know what? A one-on-one works well, because then you just have more of like a momentum. It's like panels that just kind of annoy me.
Yeah, I love doing Dan he would invite me on to do like a pre-recorded video. So then we would do that, and then he would put it up, and that was always cool. It was something more like this, and actually exactly the same, except this one just happens to be live. So.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I think like the weirdest thing about live streams is when somebody's just like hosting a live stream, and there's like, I don't know, like everybody, you know, that person's minions just sort of hanging out and watching that person talk about like nothing in particular for like 3 hours. Like that kind of stuff's weird. Like I just can't get into that kind of stuff. So like lately with this, like it's about like having a guest, having sort of like, you know, something to anchor the conversation, you know? And I think that works out best. And that's why like this is going to be changing as well. It's going to be turning into a podcast. So there's the option, like, in, you know what, honestly, some people, dude, they don't even want to put their camera on, and who could blame them? They don't really want to do that. So like an opportunity to do like a podcast means that people don't really even have to like show themselves if they don't want to, you know, and it can be pre-recorded. I can edit it. I can, you know, kind of like tighten it up a little bit, make it into something that, so I just felt like it was like a logical progression. A lot of other people are doing podcasts, and I'm also doing a Substack. Substack seems to be the way to go now, because I write more, you know, like I need an audience that actually appreciates reading what I'm writing. Like, you know, like, you know, and that's why I don't do TikTok. Like I can't really like express myself the way that, I mean, I guess I could. I don't know if you watch TikTok, people sometimes have like longer form videos, but I think it's really hard to develop an audience on TikTok if you don't adhere to the formula of grabbing their attention in as concise and as loud and attention grabbing as possible,
and quickly too. Like if you're doing
quickly,
if you're talking about, like, you have a long video, most people don't have the attention span to go through it. That's why every time I see if anything fragrance related on TikTok, because my TikTok has nothing to do with fragrances. It's all about party, you know, champagne savoring and stuff. It's like that. That's the only thing it is.
I actually, think that,
you know, and those are all like at max, all maybe like, you know, 45 seconds at max. That would be the longest video on the longer end. So, but anything TikTok related, it's always a lot of selling of Middle Eastern inspiration fragrances. That's like all these random brands. There's so many different brands. So like I see that a lot. Like, hey, if you like this, you're gonna love this by Latafa or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
you know? But fragrance content, that I still watch Mr. Smelly because I guess he likes the stuff that I like as well too, and I'll learn about different things. Some of the bigger channels that I may have watched in the beginning, I don't necessarily watch him more. Occasionally, I'll still watch a Jensen's video. I think he's got a good
Yeah.
presentation.
Okay.
I mean, I
Yeah.
enjoy, some things like a lot of the clone videos I won't necessarily watch because not that they're bad sense. I'm probably like, I'm probably never going to buy any of that. You know what I mean? But some of the other ones though, I will learn about too. But I think he's got a great video style. I think that's pretty good. There's a lot of bigger channels, and good for all of them, because if they've managed to, because I just try to look at the facts, right? Like if they've managed to turn that into something that was a hobby and interest, and they've turned it into, something that they can make a living off of doing that. I mean, like that's pretty cool. There are plenty of channels that started at the same time I did in 2019, and they have like 100,000 subscribers, and like but they put a lot of time and effort into
yeah.
Whether people like them or not. I mean, that's all opinionated, like I do look at it for what it is. Like, wow, they've turned it into making a living about it too. So that's so good for them.
Good for them. I never understood the hate for that. It's like, let people get into the hustle of it. It's like, I never intended to do that. So obviously, like, that's, like I have a job that I'm happy with full time. Like, it's secure, the benefits, everything. Like I wouldn't give that up. I honestly wouldn't give that up to try to do content full time. Like, it's just, I'm at a point in my life that this is just sort of like my hobby, and I have fun with it. And I also just know that I'm not like a hardcore YouTuber. Like I like doing the Effluvium live streams, but like I said, I want to do that to change that into more of a podcast. And for me, like, I'd rather just like release occasional videos. Like, I don't really have like the ability to pump out that kind of content. I'm just too busy to be like sending, like posting new videos like every other day or every day. That's
hard to do every other day. Like I think if I try to get, when I'm as most consistent, I try to get like maybe 2 a week or something like that. And then like I'll have something that comes up, and like I look at my stats, and it's like, I haven't posted anything in 27 days. I'm like, and so and you see all the algorithms or arrows are pointed down, and then I'll make a list video because those tend to get it, and then everything goes up. And then my individual review I'll throw in there, and that, that it peters off, and it goes. I mean, it's either way, whatever I'm reviewing, I want to review because it's fun to make, and that's I try to keep it for that too. But it is it is cool to track your progress, and you make some little bit of money off of an ad revenue, yeah.
I make like $100 every few months. So I'm not making that much money.
Not
that much money. We currently have 38 people tuned in. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. We're going to stay on for a little while longer. We'll let this run a little bit longer. We still have a little bit of a fuel left in us here, but we have only 28 likes. What's going on here? Like, I am not going to end this stream until we get at least 40 likes, because I've been able to get 40 likes at this point with far fewer viewers. So it takes like minimal effort to hit the like. Just hit the like button. It is the easiest thing to do. Let's try to get that up to about 40 likes in the next, 10 minutes or so. Let's see here. UK says, famous YouTuber, maybe you should talk about the unleaded version of DK Men. I don't care about DK Men. I don't care about the unleaded version. Those are, I sampled those. I don't understand why people are spending $400 on those. The bottles are cool. That's about it.
DK, like Donna Karen?
Yeah, the Donna Karen, yeah.
Oh, yeah, never tried anything.
They're all right. I don't understand why people are spending that kind of money. Don't know why at all. So who do I have coming up for live? I have only 5 more of these left until the Effluvium is no longer a YouTube entity. Oh, I also wanted to thank Splinter47 for buying a coffee. That is much appreciated. I thank you so much.
So if somebody buys 12 coffees, you send them 4 bottles?
I do, because I have a surplus of things in my collection. I do.
Wow.
I send them 4 bottles plus that's a grab bag. You can't request what it's going to be like. You have to, it's kind of like the thrill of not knowing what you're going to get. It's going to be 4 of them.
And how much is 12 coffees?
12 coffees is $60, $5 per coffee. So $60 gets you 4-bottle grab bag, gets you sample pack, a generous amount of samples from my collection of samples. If you choose to do 6 coffees,
you just get the sample pack.
You get the sample pack. And I've been doing that almost since this series started. So I'm
And
going to
that's
do it
4
to
bottles of any size, any type that you just
any
decide, hey,
type.
like,
It is a grab bag, so you don't know what you're going to get, but it's going to be 4 bottles, 30 mils or more of whatever you're going to get. And I have never had anybody say like, I got a bunch of shit from you. Everybody who's done it, everybody who has donated coffees and have done that have been pleased with what they get, or they just resell it, which is fine too, because you're going to make more than the money that you donated to me. Because like, honestly, like, I'm just trying to let things go, and I want people to just enjoy whatever I have that I don't need anymore. And
right.
even if you don't enjoy it, do whatever you want with it, resell it, make more money than what you donated to me. I'm fine with that.
It's a
Absolutely.
pretty good deal. That's not a bad deal. You get samples and 4 bottles too. And, like, it's not like you have like 500 bottles of, cool water that you're just going to constantly give out.
No, I'm not doing that. Like I
You've got
kind
some
of
rare
like, I have
stuff.
fun.
You have things that I've never heard of in my life. You know what I mean? Like that's actually, that's, as a viewer, hearing that, I'd be like, wow, that's, for $60. I mean, that's cool. And it also is going to generate more live streams and more content for something I enjoy watching. Like, if I'm a viewer, I would do that at least once. You know what I mean? That's, so if you're out there, $60, that's a great deal. Just think about what you're getting. Like, forget the buying a coffee thing. It's just, you pay $60, you get 4 bottles.
Something out of it,
Yeah,
it is kind of a win-win. You help me out. It really pretty much pays for my, my StreamYard subscription. like that's what helps me pay for the StreamYard subscription. So I can have I don't have like a janky, free version. Like, actually looks a little bit polished. All right, let's look at the chat here. Instigating blind buying to insecure people that don't know better is their problem. Oh, I don't know. I don't. That's kind of like I don't like instigating blind buying to instigate. Yeah. I don't like to make people feel like they should be blind buying something. And I say that as a blind buyer. Both of us here have been blind buying. Because it's hard to get samples of stuff. The grab bag is worth every penny. And you know what? Because this is a testimonial for Bilbo, because Bilbo has participated in that and he's gotten the grab bag. Duncan agrees with Bilbo. Splinter 47, what are your top 5 panty droppers? Oh man, I'm not dropping too many panties lately, so I can't really speak for that, man. Like, I'm not doing that. And I'm sure, something like Oda Jerks will cut that out and take it out of context. We don't do that. You don't do that, right, Kelan? You've never done a video like that.
No, because it's about vintages. I mean, I have some. I've been taking the Dior Sauvage on the vacations that I go to, because they have the full body line, and Dior still makes it. And when you wear that, that one has garnered compliments from girls just out. Like, I know everybody thinks it smells good. I mean, how could you not think it smells good? It's not very unique in the sense that, something like the stuff that we've talked about today, it's very much more modern and mainstream. But the elixir, I mean, Sauvage elixir, that smells fantastic. I love that stuff, and it lasts like eternal. So those are good. So I would definitely put that on the list. I know you garner. I mean, do you have that one?
I actually do not.
Don't have Sauvage elixir. That one's awesome.
I don't, but
I gotta make a video about that.
I have a sample of it.
You might like the Eau Forte Sauvage, but that one was very green. I felt like that was more old school smelling than the.
I love the green though. Give me the greens. I love green, verdant scents, galbanum, all that kind of stuff. Basil, hyacinth, those green flowers. Bilbo Fraggins, which one was the one that smelled like vomit in grade school that I gave to you? Yeah, you're really helping me out with promoting this grab bag, man. What was the one that smelled like vomit in grade school? Jeez, oh my God. Well, every time I coffee on YouTube, wifey calls me, cursing me out. Even if it's just one, I'm so sad I can't buy coffee. I even have no US bank account. I live in Moscow, Russia. So you can't do like a super chat either. I'm not going to start sounding desperate here. Like, you can't do a super chat too. Apologize for my bad English. Your English is just fine, dude. I can understand what you're saying. Thank you so much, UK. I always wanted to try Eau Sauvage Cuir, but it's rare as hen's teeth. I am not familiar with that one.
Heard of it. I think Yeah, I think Mr. Smelly has it actually. He may have a video on that one.
I'm not familiar with all these myriad flankers of Eau Sauvage. Like, pretty much, I just have like the only one I have is like a vintage 30 mil of Eau Sauvage, and that's like, it's just like my historical piece for the museum. You know, like I was
Right.
like, I'm not gonna go crazy with all these like flankers.
Well, there's flankers to Czar. There's Czar Cologne, Czar Citrus.
Yeah.
I never had Czar Citrus, but I had Czar Cologne, and it's very, very, very underwhelming. There's another one where like, oh, it's cool for the summer, and then like, you know, you wear it, and it's like it lasts for 15 minutes, if that.
Bilbo, oh my God, you read the review and you're like, yeah, I read your review, and you did say that it smelled like vomit, and you gave it to me. That's pretty funny. 60 worth of it. But you got an older Eau Sauvage. Yeah, I think I did send you the one that I had. I had an old tester bottle. I was like, you know what? I have my museum Eau Sauvage. I don't need this extra bottle. So it went to a good home, my friend.
That's a great one to get.
Yeah, yeah. I good like that. You know, like the 4 bottle grab bag, it's like, you know, you're not gonna like, you can't come into it expecting you're gonna get like 4 fucking holy grails, because like I'm not gonna be like giving but you're gonna get some good stuff. You're gonna be getting some things that like I just have a surplus in my collection, and I'm actually planning a potential move in the next 6 months. So it's like it helps me out a great deal. So what else do I have just sitting over here? But you know, we might wind down in a little bit, but I did set aside some rarities. Like this one's pretty cool, the Bally Masculin. This is one of the rarer ones that I have. I found this for a pretty good deal. This is a very nice sort of like lavender, clary sage, Ford kind of aromatic. Oh, that's a nice look, but I prefer this one. Does anybody know about Bally Masculin? This was actually one I think that Fragrance Matt turned me on to. I wasn't aware of its existence. I knew about Bally, like the, you know, the fashion house. I remember they had the stores. I don't see them anymore, but yeah, they actually did have a fragrance that came out in the 80s. It's this a very nice sort of like marble-like milky glass. Maybe I'll put this on actually. Always have to make sure during these live streams to at least put something on.
Yeah, I guess I have to too. I haven't done one yet.
Yeah.
Do you like Creed at all?
I used to have some Creeds. I sold most of them. The only one I have now is Royal Mayfair. And oh, that's a nice spray for like an older bottle. I forgot about that. Yeah, I used to have a ton of Creeds back in the day. I've been wearing fragrances for a while, and I had a ton back in the early 2010s, late 2000, early 2010s. I loved Green Valley, Original Vetiver, Bois de Portugal, Royal English Leather. What else did I have? Tabarome original, the original Tabarome, and then the Tabarome Millésime as well. Yeah, this stuff is good. Now this is one of those where it's like, yeah, if you find it for $250, get it, because it's just so uncommon and it is really, really beautiful. It's like it is, and you don't really find too many fragrances that exalt clary sage as a note, but this is so clary sage. Like it has some lavender, it has, you know, some other herbs in it, but clary sage is really the big part of it. Really beautiful, beautiful stuff. Bally Masculin. Something about that marbled white bottle. Duncan, do you have this as well? I feel like I've had discussions with you about that one. It's a very nice one. Oh, you know, Bally Masculin, Holy Grail shit. I feel guilty wearing it. Yeah, it's almost like, you ever have those fragrances you know they're so rare. It's almost like a sacrament to wear it. It's like you're depleting it and you don't know if you'll ever be able to replace it again. But it's like a sacred ritual to wear it.
Anytime I get that feeling, I'm like, oh, but you know what though? If I don't, it's gonna go bad, and then it's useless.
Right, right. I'm not saying like just let it sit there and never wear it, but when you wear it, you relish it. You absolutely like, wow, this is some good stuff. Anu sent me a vintage Eau Sauvage in the bottle that looks like Hohen Club. It's so far removed from the modern. I'd say it's a completely different fragrance. Splinter 47 says Aberdeen Lavender from Creed is one of my faves. Smalto Porom is a great one to wear tomorrow. That's a very nice choice. Royal
Small.
Mayfair was just re-released. Wonder how the new formulation holds up, says Salvador.
I have a vintage Royal Mayfair. I actually got it on Joma Shop, believe it or not. Like it was the picture,
crazy.
and I'm like, oh, I'm probably just gonna get the current version. And it showed up, and it was the vintage one, and I'm like, oh, nice. You know, that was I do like that one. It's almost like mothball-esque, clean, soapy, very, very, very.
Yeah. Like I love that camphor smell, like eucalyptus camphor smell.
Yeah, eucalyptus.
Kind of like
that's it.
Kind of like you know, some people say that like in a negative way. Look, it smells like mothballs or it smells like bug spray, but I kind of like that. I kind of like that when it's like in the top note. Sometimes it's just like this like bracing, invigorating kind of feel. Yeah, this one is really nice. And there's like this muskiness to it too, not like an animalic muskiness, just like a clean fresh laundry, but it's also kind of mossy. Yeah, very classy stuff. Let me tell you, we're at we're into 2 hours and 21 minutes. I think we're going to wrap up on this a little bit. In a little bit, we have 35 people who are tuned in though, which is fantastic. And let's look at the like count, but we're at 29. What's wrong with you people, man? It's so easy. We could get about 6 more likes in just the next couple of minutes. If anybody has any other questions, if you have any other comments, I kind of think Viking was the last great Creed. Perhaps. I kind of stopped following Creed around the time actually that Aventus came out. Creed was like a big thing for me, and I think the novelty of it wore off a number of years ago.
Aventus Absolutus. I love that. That stuff is awesome. And regular Aventus is the best, but Aventus Absolute I love too.
Those old gray cap Creeds though were so like old world classic, early 20th century, like the Royal Scottish Lavender and the Acier Aluminium. There was another one that was really nice, Angelique Ensemble. That was back when I used to go to Colonial Drug, which was this. You would die in this place, Kelan. At least when it was in Harvard Square in Cambridge. It was a drugstore, but also they had fragrances. All these classic fragrances, like barbershop style fragrances, classic like Fougères, the different stuff from the UK, Italy. I mean, it was just so amazing, and they had all those old Creeds. And that's where I learned about a lot of them. That's where
were they expensive there?
It was not. I mean, retail, but retail was a lot cheaper then than what they go for now. Now that they've been discontinued, but that's where I got a lot of my early education was from there. And then there was this cool tobacco place. It was called a tobacco. You know, they call it a tobacconist. And also in Harvard Square called Levin and Pierce. And all these classic gentlemen's fragrances. That's where I first learned of Abbé Rouge from Kelan and Vetiver from Kelan. This is back in the early 2000s.
All right, so this is a while, but there's not many stores like that. Like there's one flea market here in South Jersey in Columbus, and they have a store space as well where there's storefronts, and if you go in there. There's like, it's a little like, you know, indoor market. There's food. There's, you know, vendors show up there every week. But there's one store that's open all the time, and it's like a hole in the wall. It's like a closet with a desk in it where this guy sits, and he's got every classic fragrance you could think of. Czar, original Calvin, except he's ridiculously overpriced for everything because he knows what it is. And he's had his collection bought out multiple times from what he told me. And my first bottle of Gucci Nobile I bought from him And it was just, I think it was just like a 2 ounce, because I asked him about the 4 ounce, but he goes, oh no, that's just an empty box I just have sitting out there for like an advertisement. But he's got the big mega size bottles that were novelty. I mean, you think of like different,
like the factices,
yeah, like just advertise. He's got all that stuff in there. I only was there the one time, because when I went, like, I don't think I'd go back, just because you can get better deals on eBay. But his stuff is, it's in good condition, and you know, if you pay cash, it's a little bit less, which makes sense as opposed to a card. But yeah, there's not many. Then there's this place called Pasteur's in New York, and I've never physically been in it, but remember Al? Remember Al was like a thing for like a year?
Al Manzano.
Funny dude, right? Funny dude. Yeah. He was always very nice to me. You know?
Yeah.
He sent me. He would like randomly mail me like vintage clones, you know. But I know he had that one video where he like lost it on somebody.
I was there. Are you talking about the live stream of Dan?
Yeah, I think I saw it after the fact, and I remember being like, "Oh my!" That was actually really funny now that I think about it. But he's the one that knew about Pasteur's, and Pasteur's will have stuff like Sear Irish Moose by Irish Moose. You know, they'll have something like that. Like they have a lot of like random barbershops scents in there. Doesn't sound like they have the high end stuff. Like I don't think they had niche there, but you could get like a Knitza 10. That's where I got all that stuff.
Selva or things like that. Yeah,
they'll have Aqua de Selva. God, that now that's one that's been definitely reformulated. Like my uncle was.
Yeah. I have these really cool like vintage smaller bottles of Agua Brava, Aqua de Selva, and they're for reference. I can't really use too much of them because they're only like, I don't know, like 20 milliliters, but they're so cool, like little collector's pieces, and they smell so different from them. Like those are the ones that have really changed over time. So it's kind of like part of my little collection of like classic, barbershop / working class gentleman kind of style fragrances.
Yeah. If you're going to get one, get the built-in sprayer one. Because I have a really old vintage as well that's made by Victor. And that's funny because they were produced or sold in Philadelphia, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, sold everywhere, but I think Victor was in Philadelphia. So that's a cool one. Victor still makes some sense. I got Victor Sport the other day. That's pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Glad they're still actually producing stuff. Jeez. 34 people tuned in. We're going to go until just 3 more minutes here because 2 minutes. Listen to me. 2 hours and 30 minutes is as long as I go with Effluvium. So we're not going to be on for much longer. Going to take a look at the likes. We're still at 29. Come on, people. I really wanted us to sign off with 40 likes. I've been able to do it before with half the amount of viewers. Come on. Give me a break. It's easy to do. My Iquitos built-in sprayer is broke. Had no atomizer or had to had to add atomizer. Okay. Had to put it into an atomizer. Oud Wood Intense. I want, but the guy is Ray. All right. So the chat is starting to wind down. I think this is as good a time as any to kind of. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share as far as fragrances that you wanted to talk about before we start to wrap things up? Was something that you set aside we never got around to?
Looking at it, I mean, the only thing that I didn't actually show, I showed the Xeris was just the vintage Polo, but we talked ad nauseum about that.
Okay.
That's fine. Actually, everything that I have here on this table beside me here that I brought into my guest room to do this, we've talked about too. So I'm good.
We covered everything. Great. Yeah. Well, make sure to stick around for the backstage for just a little bit. I do the backstage too. We chit chat just a little bit before we retire for the evening. And this is the point where I start playing the theme music here. All right. This is our theme music, people. All right. I want to let people know about who is coming up for the last 5 episodes of Effluvium ever on YouTube, because I am wrapping up the series after 3 years. So we have coming up for April 10th, we have Whitney Swales of Wit and West. We have a wonderful independent perfumer. She runs Wit and West. She'll be with me on April 10th. We have our friend Derek, aka Varanus Radari, the Scented Devil. He will be joining us on another Saturday episode of Effluvium on April 26th. May 6th, we have Daisy Bow. She's really cool. You should look her up on Instagram.
Wait a minute. Who's coming up? What'd you say the name was?
Daisy Bow.
Before that one.
Varanus Roderi, the scented devil, was going to.
Does he have some sort of like dragon or something like that?
That's the man.
That's the dude. That's the dude that got upset with me about the Caesar's Man. That's funny.
Well, he's a big personality. He's a friend of mine, though. That's hilarious, though. Oh, May 20th, we have Jamal. Jamal is he is studying perfumery. He is a wunderkind when it comes to perfume making and perfume science. And then the finale is going to be with Alex, the Perfume Temple. That's going to be scheduled 2 weeks thereafter. I don't have the exact date, but that is going to be the rest of the season. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Kelan, I want to thank you so much for finally accepting my invitation and making this work out. I think it's been an awesome conversation. I had a great time.
Yeah, no, I'm happy. Like, especially now that I know you're ending, I'm glad I got to jump on one of the last.
I wanted you to be part of this series before it ended. So
yeah, no, I'm sorry. Again, sorry it took so long. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a great time. All right, stick around. We're gonna wrap this up. All right, everyone, take care. If you missed most of it, there's obviously going to be a playback. But everybody be well. Have a good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are, and be well. Take care.
Bye, everybody.